Hello, so this is a new episode of Pints and Pages, and today we are going to be talking to Tony Walters about making movies, um, how he, what he does, how his careers went, different things going on with his life currently, and it's just going to be a discussion that kind of flows through the evening. So, my name's Nick. We're at Savini Comics. Second level of bonus pints, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So, hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. So, I'll start off. I made myself notes. I also have your IMDb
I know
printed and ready.
notes.
I do. I have notes. So, exactly how did you get started doing movies?
So, like 7 years ago, I don't know, kind of goes a little bit back before that. In high school, I created like skateboard videos, was kind of what I was doing a lot. I fell in love with the camera then, just shooting skateboard videos. We were all kind of obsessed with like the Jackass era of television at the time. So we would just film a bunch of stupid stuff with our friends, and then but we had the ability to kind of edit that stuff. So put together, we put together videos, and then we just go to parties at our friend's house and go put it in and go, everybody watch our thing, because it's like before YouTube or whatever. And then uh, life happened. I was in a band for a long time. I did a lot of other creative things and kind of forgot about cameras. But then about 7 years ago, I started a YouTube channel called Rad Entertainment, and we started out doing movie reviews and video game plays. And I built a little team together, people to help me out with that. Some of my best friends and my current wife at the time, just a friend of mine from high school that I brought back into the fold to help out with it. And then we started doing a Walking Dead show where we were just reviewing every episode as they came out. And one of the guests on that show was a friend of mine called Dan Murphy. He owns a production company called HM&M Films out of Winnemac, and they make horror movies. And
With
so
Tom.
with Tom,
With Tom.
yes. And so I brought him in for an episode. We just all kind of, hit it off really well. And he was like, hey, I'm in the middle of reshooting an ending to a movie that they had already done, and asked if we wanted to help out and be part of it. So Rebecca and I went, my wife, um, we went and we were actors in the scene. And then I also helped out with the sound for that scene. And we both just kind of got bit by the bug right then and there. We're like, this is what we want to be doing. But we continued doing the same video game stuff and movie reviews and all that kind of stuff for the channel. We did 2 years straight releasing everything from movie reviews, video game plays, to vlogging and podcasting, and tried out different like kind of game shows, and just always just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, see what would stick. But in the back of our minds, we wanted to be making movies, and we were still just chugging along, putting out 3-4 videos a week on our YouTube channel pretty consistently, with not getting a whole lot of getting on traction necessarily. But everybody who saw the stuff thought that our production value was just way better than where we should be at the level of what we were at. Like, you guys are making really good stuff, but not really getting any traction. Uh, so we pivoted the whole thing into making movies, and quickly started gaining more traction there and getting recognized. And we got picked up for a movie called Kill Valley Kill, which is made by Trauma Entertainment and Wretched Productions, and they were based out of Las Vegas. Wretched Productions based out of Las Vegas, and so we shot half of that movie in Las Vegas and half of it in Winnemac. And it was a huge production that I just got like thrown into to be their director of photography. So I'm the guy filming the scenes, setting up the lights, doing everything for a super low budget movie. Like, I think the total budget of that film was like 10 grand or something. And we made a really cool slasher rock musical, and it was the most fun I'd ever had doing anything. And it was a huge project, tons of actors, tons of effects, music numbers. Like, I mean, just to just be thrown into the wild, just like, here you go, like, go do this thing. All I'd ever shot before that was I wrote and directed a short film called June, that's up on our YouTube channel, and I helped out in a couple of dance movies. But this was the first feature length thing that I'd done, and then from there, working with those people, met other people, and then just movie after movie after movie. I couldn't tell you how many projects I've been involved in since then. But since then, Rad Entertainment, now we just strictly do movies and music videos. And under our production company, we've done two movies now. Um, Idol Girl, which was directed by Rebecca, and Parallels, which is a Condog Films, is the main production company on that. Um, they're based out of Tennessee, and then we came onto that production as producers, and I was the cinematographer for that, and Beth was an actor in that, and that's the probably the biggest, that's probably the best thing that we've made so far, as far as just the amount of heart and soul and just quality that we put into it. I mean, I think that movie, I think it's a great movie. We just played Indie PopCon. Daniel won Best First Time Director on that one. So super great. Rebecca had won First Time Director, Best First Time Director for Idol Girl. But I last year directed two feature length movies. My first features of me directing, I directed them, and I was the director of photography for both of them. One's called The Undesirables, which will hopefully be released in the spring, and then Macabre Mountain, which comes out later this month.
So you didn't have any sort of like background.
No, not really. I just messed around with cameras, and I'm a tech guy by nature. I mean, I own a computer repair store here in Logansport, and I in high school was the friend that people brought their stuff to fix or download movies illegally, or like whatever.
I've done that.
Whenever anybody
I did that
needed
with my friends. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, yeah,
I've learned that from you, Dad.
yeah, I
So
think we've all dabbled in that a little bit.
I wanted to be a rock star for a long time. I mean, I was the lead singer in a band for a while, and that was the direction I wanted to go in. And then when the band fell apart, I was kind of lost for probably like 5 years, 6 years of just kind of wandering, trying to figure out what creative outlet I wanted to pursue, because I'm not the kind of person that can just go to work and come home. I have to have something that I feel like has purpose, even if it's just, making stupid movies with my friends, and, nobody really gets to see them but us. I mean, that's fine. I would love, we are definitely getting a lot of traction with this stuff, and we're getting to a point where I'm getting paid to make movies, and that's fun and awesome. And it's a bonus to be able to make some money doing it. It can make things a little bit easier to dedicate your time to something that way. But no, I didn't have any real background in it. I'm self-taught completely. But I am a person who, I don't half-ass things. If I'm going to do something, I really do put my all into it, and my all from an artistic perspective, and then from also just like if I tell you I'm going to make your movie, it will happen and it will get done. I've never backed out of a project. I've always stand by everything that we make. I mean, I study filmmaking on a regular basis. There's not a day that goes by that I haven't read an article, watched a video. If you go to my store, you'll see next to my desk are stacks of filmmaking books. Like, I read constantly. It is a passion of mine that I don't take lightly, and I constantly am trying to better myself every single day. Every project that I do, I try to make sure the next one is better, and better visually, better storytelling, better like actors, just constantly trying to build a better team all the time. Sometimes I'll just take an ad and go, oh, there's somebody in Tennessee who's making a movie and they need a guy to come set up lights. And yeah, I'm directing movies now, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to just go do this small job here, because any set that I can get on, I meet people and network and bring those people onto my team. Like, our team that we have now is the most solid team that we've ever had, and we knock shit out. I'll toot my own horn. We are good at what we do, and we people are recognizing us as like oh, you guys want to get a movie made? These are the guys that will come and make that because we're hard workers. We love what we do.
I watched Idol Girl. I started to watch. I got through what I could of Parallels. Both I thought were visually very, very well done. Very well done.
I only got to see Idol Girl, and I thought it was fantastic. I very much enjoyed it. I had a couple questions about it, but I mean that story wise, which obviously you didn't really write.
I didn't write the story. The story was written by Jaron Spencer and Rebecca Erb, who collaborated on that story. And that movie was supposed to be, that was right after the pandemic. We shot that in 2020. Like, it was right when things started opening back up again in Indiana. And, you know, everybody's like, you can go do stuff again. And we're like, cool, we're going to try and squeak a movie in here right at the end of the year. And so the original concept for that film was, let's do a 20-minute short. And we wrote pages, and those pages kept going. And then we had a 45-page script. And I was like, that's, when you rule of thumb is it's a page a minute is what it's going to be on your runtime. And we had only scheduled 4 days to film that movie, and we never changed that. So we shot that. It's a 48-minute movie, and we shot it in 4 days.
That gives a lot of light also on my questions too. So that makes that, yeah, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that movie was a marathon, man. That was,
I was going to say, even not knowing much, holy shit.
Out of those 4 days, one of those days was 24 hours straight. We were crawling into bed, and our alarm clock went off for us to get up to start the day as we were like getting into bed. And it was just like, we pushed call time by 2 hours so we could take a nap before we went back out and did it again. It was a super intense. It was a super intense thing. We had the car that she drives in that movie, that red LeBaron.
Yeah,
that thing broke down the entire time that we were filming. So we were battling that. The very last thing that we shot was when the car stops on the side of the road and the two characters get out and kind of yell at each other and we get back in the car. That's the very last thing that we shot. And right after we shot that, we had to hop in the car and drive back to the house. And if you let off the gas, it would start to die. So we had to be blowing through red lights. Like we just, like we drove that thing back to the house, and it died as we were like on our street. We coasted into the driveway.
Jesus. I do have a question with that. How did you guys do the gas pump scene where she drags the handle with her? I mean, I imagine just a prop or something.
It's super easy. Dan Murphy came on as an assistant director. I think was his role was for that. He works at Napa, and so he just got they sell gas pumps and hoses.
Oh, okay.
So he rigged us up something, and he's literally we took their gas pump off, put his gas pump on it. He's standing off frame, just holding the other end of that hose, and she pulls out and he just lets it go.
Okay.
There was a lot of run and gun filmmaking in that movie. We didn't really, with that particular scene, we hadn't talked to that gas station. We just went and shot that. So when she gunned it out of there was a lady who was getting gas and was yelling at her, oh, Jesus. So I think, look, in the behind the scenes of that, there's a woman who's yelling in the background. It's pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Also, just because I know you explained it off the podcast, the squib that you guys used for the gunshot on that. Just because I only know the gunpowder squibs, I didn't know there even was an air squib.
Yeah, so it's just like a tube of blood. It's just a rubber tube with you fill it full of blood, and it's hooked to what is a fire extinguisher is what it is.
Oh.
It's just a fire extinguisher that's just compressed air inside of it, and you just squeeze that handle and just launch it right at the end. It's Derek Worley did the special effects on that, so he did the zombies and
yeah. So you have a team that does special effects and does makeup and all that stuff.
We don't have a team specifically, but we have a handful of people that we reach out to for that.
Okay.
And we've got we're at the point now where we have most of our bases are covered. We've got people in every position. So you got people who do beauty makeup, and then you got people who do the horror stuff.
Are those people that you've just found over the years?
Yeah.
You've just networked and connected. They're not necessarily in Logansport, or
most of the people that we work with aren't. There's a couple of people in Logansport that we work with, but most of the people that we work with, my main like AC, assistant camera. He lives in, I think he lives now in Kentucky technically, but he's like right on the like Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio border, like all three of the states touch.
Oh, okay.
He lives over there. Roman Josark, Studio 605.
I saw that on a couple of different things. Studio 605.
Yeah, he's been making movies longer than we have, and he's in a band now with Tom Commissar. They're in a band called Slasher Boy. Check them out on Spotify. They do like horror punk rock stuff.
Okay. All right. I noticed most of your movies kind of gear towards horror. Is it easier to make an indie horror than it is to make an indie like comedy or a drama?
I think it's an odd boat because I think that all of the things are hard to make. Comedy, I would say, for me personally, is a hard thing to make, but I think for some people it comes really easily. I would argue that when it comes to editing, comedy and editing a horror film are the exact same style of editing. I think that there's a way that you cut a punchline into a scene is the same way you cut like a somebody getting shot or like some kind of blood squib or big gag like that is the same kind of editing style that you would do. But I think a lot of people jump into horror because it can be done on a low budget, and action's the hardest one. Like an action movie is hard because it requires people to know what they're doing. And that can be expensive.
Stunts
and just filming stunts and filming action scenes, filming fight scenes is hard. We've done a lot of that though too. In Kill Dolly Kill, there are 2 fight scenes in that movie. One is a full-on wrestling match fight scene that is like legit 2 wrestlers. Mikey Wilde is the choreographer of that, and he's in the scene. He has wrestled with Cal.
Oh, okay. Cal Hero that came with Al Snow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like they know each other, but Mikey's awesome, but he did a scene in that movie, and then another scene that was the scene we shot in Winnemac. The scene we shot in Las Vegas, we had a dojo that put together a whole fight choreography scene, and then the day before we filmed it, I showed up at the dojo with just my phone and filmed the fight scene and I'm like in the fight, like choreographing where the camera's going to be for each of the punches because I'm a fan of like the John Wick style of action. So everything in my mind should be as in one shot as you can and shot wide. And these guys were all good at what they were doing. So I was like, I'm not going to have a bunch of cuts where you're cutting around all the punches. Like these guys are awesome and know what they're doing. So
it makes it look way better.
Yeah, let's see it. And that was my first time trying to shoot something like that. I think it turned out pretty good in the scene. And it's a funny scene though too. So it's like it's got that whole movie's really funny, but it's got comedy and action throughout it. But as far as most people jump into horror, and I don't know why it's so approachable, but it really is. There's so many different types of horror you can do, and I think it's an easy thing for people. At least they think it's easy. I think everything's hard because once you do it, you realize what you've done wrong and why it's not scary. Because you can make a slasher like with your friends, and the slasher concept's easy. You got a bunch of kids together, one guy's killing them all. Like it's not like it's kind of a really in-depth story, and you get a lot of those. You get a lot of slasher stuff, and they can be done really well though too. You can do that differently and make it done well. But you do get a lot of people that do that, and a lot of people grow up on that stuff too.
Yeah, it seems that most of the independent movies seem to veer towards the horror side. I don't know if that's just because that's what it feels like.
The horror fan base seems to be way more willing to watch a lower production or a maybe not a AAA title.
That's a very good point. The horror fan basis definitely appreciates a super low budget movie. Well, like people who are into action movies are into Fast and Furious and like Marvel movies, those big spectacle ones. Don't get me started on this. But that fan basis grew up watching indie horror already. Like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. Those movies are low budget indie horror.
Yeah, technically Friday the 13th, the first Nightmare on Elm Street was the biggest budget out of all of them, but definitely Halloween 1 and 2 were definitely low budget.
And
Yeah, Evil Dead.
Evil Dead's a great
Sam
example.
Raimi did all his stuff low budget.
The first few Romero films, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All that stuff is really inspiring. Like for me, the movies that made me want to make movies, there's kind of three movies that made me want to make movies, which is Reservoir Dogs by Tarantino. That movie made me think about filmmaking in a way that I never looked at before, which was like that movie's about a jewelry heist and you don't ever see the heist in the movie. It's just the aftermath of it.
Right.
Which I thought was genius on like how do you take this thing that could be really expensive and make it cheaper? But you just cut out the thing. Like you don't need to see that. The movie's not about it. And then Clerks, Kevin Smith's Clerks made me go, I can make a movie. I watched that movie like I can do that.
A lot of us saw Clerks and went, I think I can do that.
Yeah,
a lot of us saw it and thought, I think I've already been in that. Like, I think that's part of my life.
I managed a gas station for 4 years, worked in gas stations for 8 years. So Clerks hits home with me like in a really weird way because like those jokes landed like really hard with me. But that movie made me go, I can put people in front of a camera and just have them talk because the Clerks is just here's 2, 3, 4 people just stand in front of a camera and they talk. There's no like cross cutting between it all. They're usually just all this one shot, like, kind of a conversation. And I was like, I can do that. And then the movie that made me though go, I want to do this and I want to do it differently and push the limits of what we can do is The Matrix is a movie that I think changed cinema really drastically and brought Asian like fighting and that choreography and everything into the American like space that wasn't, those movies like were always like kind of grindhousey, kind of like the Bruce Lee stuff was still, I know Bruce Lee himself was in the mainstream, but all those movies and all that era of all that kung fu stuff was like, and if you're into it, but it wasn't exactly mainstream. The Matrix made it go, hey, this whole style of fighting and just action and as a whole, how we're going to shoot it has changed everything.
It even changed a lot of video games.
Yeah.
First person shooters. There was an entire like decade of where everybody focused on bullet time and slow-mo in video games, all because of that movie.
Max Payne being a big one. Off the top of my head, I love those.
Yeah. That's a good point. They so you cinematography and directing.
Mm-hmm.
This is my big hang up. What's the difference between the two?
So as a cinematographer, if I come onto a project and a director, a director hires me to shoot that movie, my job is to try and capture what's in their head. So my job is to get into the director's head as much as possible when it comes to the theme of the movie, the style, like colors, lighting. Like, do we want it to look really dramatic? Do we want it to be, high key, low key, as in like brighter or darker? Like now everything's low key, like, the Batman being the most low key you could probably get and not, be completely dark, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm
very little light.
Yes, very low light. As cameras have become digital cameras now, you can shoot low light easier than you could on film. So they're really pushing the boundaries of how low you can shoot a movie. I do think that there's a level that's too low, and the Batman I think it's an absolutely gorgeous film. But I can't watch it at home because it's too bright in the sun. I can't. If you ever watch that, it's going to be like at 2 a.m. and all the lights have to be off. It's a 3-hour movie. I'm going to fall asleep.
Yeah, you're talking about the new one with Pattinson, right?
Yeah, I work second shift. I can do that.
But
I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, but that's my go-to airplane movie.
Oh, the Batman?
So, yeah, I put my headphones in. It's a 3-hour flight to Phoenix. That's usually where our layover is when we're going to California. And I watch Batman on my phone. And, that's my go-to.
But so as a cinematographer, like, your job is to capture what's in the director's mind. Now, I would say that my style of cinematography makes its way in every movie that I make. Every movie that I've been a cinematographer for, I think that if you were to watch them all, you would see my style across all of them, despite them being different directors for almost every project I've worked on. And and that comes because of the level of production that we're doing. I work with a lot of first-time directors that trust my vision on stuff, but the director's job, ideally, is to do two big things, which is two big things, and those are two very broad strokes I'm painting. So, but there's pre-production, which is one giant chunk that the director has their hands in every single aspect of that, which is the story from the script, which is the most important part of any movie. Is just our motto at Rad Entertainment is story first. The story, you have to have a good foundation. So from that point to costuming to casting to every single the music, every single decision, the director talks with every single head of that department and to get them all in his head or her head to be like, this is the vision that I've got, and talks to everybody and trusts their interpretation of that vision. And then when you're actually filming the movie and you're on set, the director's job should only be to direct those actors, to get the performance out of the actors that they want in that moment, in that scene. And they shouldn't have to worry about all those other things because they put in their work ahead of time, talk to all their heads of departments. So all on set, everybody's doing the job that they were given pre filming. And then, you just have to build a team that you can trust. Because if you have a team of people that maybe you don't trust, then you're doing 1,000 jobs on set and you're trying to direct a movie, and that sucks. We've all been there. Because it's the indie world, you wear a lot of hats. A lot of people are doing more than one job all the time. Anyway. But for me, I pull double duty when I direct a movie. I usually direct and I'm a cinematographer. And it's really because I'm still kind of hunting for a cinematographer that has kind of my style. And it's just because I've been doing cinematography for so long. So I know what I want. So it's just easier for me to just do it.
Just do it.
But I do think that sometimes, especially in the two movies I just made, I'm in the editing process of that. I'm editing both those movies as well. While I'm editing it, there's just moments where I'm just like, I wish I would have pushed for, like the performance on this, but my mind's on camera equipment and like, when we're doing a walk and talk and, we're like tracking down the hallway with two actors that are talking. It's like, am I paying attention to that performance? Or am I paying attention to get them both framed up and I'm walking the way that I need to walk to make sure the camera's not moving all over the place and like getting all the technique down. And if I had enough takes that I could lock in that movement and then start worrying about the performance a little bit more, that's one thing. But in the indie world, you never have enough time for anything. So
is it, do you wear a lot of hats because of budget constraints?
Yes.
Or just because of lack of participation?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Like, is it just hard to find people to help or hard to find people that want to help?
We live in Indiana. So
we do live in Indiana.
So bumfuck nowhere.
So there is a difficulty sometimes with filling particular positions, but we've been doing it long enough now that a lot of our heads of departments are full. But sometimes that head of department is the department. So like my camera department, I've got Roman, he's in charge of that camera department. He's my assistant camera, so he's setting up. He's usually pulling double duty. He's assistant camera, but he's also my gaffer and my grip. So he's setting up lights and he's pulling focus for me too. So like I'm on the camera, but we have wireless focus system. He's got a monitor, so he's the one actually pulling focus on. That's one less thing I got to worry about. So he's wearing a bunch of hats. Where normally he would be the head of that department, and then there would be guys that he would then instruct to be setting up lights while he's setting up other stuff and getting stuff together. And sometimes we have people for that. The movie we just did, McCott Mountain, that movie had like $120,000 budget. So we had people. We had people work. That was the most smooth I've ever had a production, despite it still being very running gun and very, not enough time to shoot the scenes. Like we were shooting at the first 3 or 4 days of that movie, we were shooting 16 pages a day. And in like a Hollywood movie, you'd shoot like 1 to 3 pages a day.
Oh, wow.
And Idle Girl, we were shooting, and there was 48, it was 48 minutes, and it was like roughly 45-ish pages. We were shooting, what is that? It's like, it's 10, at least 10 pages a day, 10 to 12 pages a day,
So that's a question I have. You said in the indie world, you don't have time to do stuff. You don't have a lot of time. And my immediate thought process was you guys don't really have a due date necessarily because typically you guys don't, you're not like a bigger production, say like Marvel's like this is coming out now.
When I say I don't have enough time, the reason we don't have time is because It's because of how much of it costs. So
Okay.
we don't have the budget to allow us more time. So every person on set we're paying to be there. I mean, we try to pay everybody, entry level positions. You're usually like intern kind of people that are, helping out for the day. We do have friends that just will donate their pay and just say, put it in the production, and stuff like that too. We definitely pull as many favors and strings as we can and make things as cheap as we can. But on set, if you have actors there, you're paying them all to be there. You're renting camera equipment most of the time. You're paying sound people. You're paying, if you're lucky enough to be a director that's getting paid to be there, that's awesome. But you're paying catering, uh, uh, lodging, places for people to sleep, hotel rooms, all that stuff. You add another day, then Iowa Girl had a $6,000 budget for 4 days of shooting. If we had another day, that's like another $1,000, another $2,000 to add another day. We just didn't have it. So you got to cram everything you can into that time space because you can't afford another day.
You just don't make people sleep on your floor in your living room.
We do sometimes. We don't really do that much anymore, but we definitely did do that. We definitely started out with that. Parallels was that. Parallels, we, on the Logan Sport shoot of Parallels, the actors, I think, had hotel rooms, but the whole crew slept on my floor. So, well, we had a really big house at that time, so we had plenty of space for everybody.
It worked out.
I think somebody's floor right now, we have a tiny little 2-bedroom house, it'd be pretty tight right now. And I'm currently sleeping on my own floor because we have a 1-year-old who's now kicked us out of our own bed.
Okay. So it's just easier to sleep on the floor.
It's easier to just sleep in the living room.
I know that Brad likes to do props and costumes.
Yeah, I like to replicate things from movies. Like I've always kind of had an interest in that, and it's cool to hold what you see in a movie in your hand. So I'm kind of curious as how do you guys approach that?
With props for us, usually we kind of put that into the special effects department's hands, and it all depends on what it is that we need. Sometimes they'll make it from scratch. Sometimes they'll just buy things, and when they buy things, they try to buy things from other artists and not strictly buying toys or whatever. But that happens sometimes too. But sometimes we'll buy airsoft guns for a scene, and then the special effects department will paint them up and make them look like real guns.
Okay.
So we do with the prop stuff. It really depends on what it is. We've not had to make anything that was really outlandish. It's usually I'll have a kitchen knife, and we'll have one that's metal but it's blunt, and then we'll have one that's foam and a full one, and then one that's a half blade, and then a half blade that's foam and a half blade that's metal. And so just depending on the shot, what is needed for that scene. Because there's a scene in my short film, that first short that I did called June, where this guy gets stabbed so many times. He should have been dead.
I watched that one.
You watched that one, right?
I get to see shout out to Adam Gendrum for the creepy music.
Yeah, and he did the score on that.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that one.
He might still have some, but he put that out. He released that whole score.
Yeah. How many people worked on June?
On June, that one was very let's see if we can make a movie kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So that was me, Rebecca, Dan. And then I had Don Perkins for one day on set. That was a 2-day shoot. Had Don Perkins one day running sound, and Brody Z on the second day doing sound. Ezekiel Vasquez, he's a musician, goes by Brody Z. But I had him do sound on the second day. And I think that was it for that whole crew. That whole movie we didn't really have, I did set up lights for some of the stuff. But that was mostly just, all in camera, just figuring it out. That was my first try, trying to do something serious.
Well, it was, for as short as it was, there was kind of a lot of story for you to kind of assume in there. And then, I at the end of it, I got back to thinking that the high speed shot where she's shooting, she's just running through all the cabinets, and like, what's going on? And then you figure out what the heck she was looking for in the end,
that part is probably my favorite part in the short, and it's like a time lapse.
Yeah.
And it's a time lapse with like very specific camera settings to make her blur out as she's running around, because that's just like it was just a technique that I wanted to do in it. So I looked up how to do it, and it's also being pushed in. So that the camera is on a tripod and it's on a piece of cardboard on the kitchen floor. I'm on the floor scooting that cardboard forward for like 20 minutes or whatever. Just let her go through all those cabinets while I'm just pushing that.
So how long was the scene compared to how long the actual footage shot?
The footage is like 20 minutes, I think, is what it is. It's roughly 20 minutes for like however long it is. Like 60 seconds, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
he's tied to a chair the whole time.
It was good. It looked good, and then the punch looked really good too. That she gave one really good wallop in there. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. There's that thing. I did that short. That short is on a DVD set called I think it's just Horror Mayhem and Madness, which is HM&M Films. It's Horror Mayhem and Madness Volume 1, I think is maybe what she's called. And that is a DVD of shorts.
Yeah.
He reached out to a bunch of filmmakers, and we all did a short. That the anthology is called Snuff Party, and so they all had to be snuff films. And I'm not like a big fan of like that genre, which is in the movie. When she puts it in the VHS tape, that's the snuff film.
Well, and I thought that if that was your requirement, then you guys kind of put it in a good place.
And that I didn't shoot that or direct that or anything. That was done by Dan for another project that got scrapped, and so he gave me that footage for me to use within my short, just to meet that criteria. Because I told him what my idea was, and he was like, "Oh, that's really cool. I've got something if you want to use it," because he'd just been sitting on it for a while. I was like, "Hey, might as well use it."
So when you got together with Dan to do June, he was already making films.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Dan was definitely a great guide into all that stuff. Like when I was shooting June, at one point, he just kind of pulled me aside and he was like, "Where are you cutting to from this scene? What is the next shot?" And it was just something that because I was just kind of shooting a bunch of stuff, and he was trying to keep track of all my shots to make sure I had everything to make the scene. Because when you're shooting stuff, sometimes you're shooting, most of the time, especially nowadays, but at that point I was trying to shoot in order as much as I possibly could. But we shoot out of order completely. So you have to make sure that you're getting those pieces. And it just clicked in my brain like, oh yeah, I'm not really thinking about the edit. I was just shooting all the stuff and not thinking about necessarily how it cut together in that moment. And then like when he mentioned that to me, it's just always been a thing that has stuck with me now forever. I mean, now I've just done enough stuff, so now it's just natural. I don't really think about it. I just know it. It's there.
But yeah, I couldn't even imagine going through that process of having to figure out where to film and how this is going to edit later. I would have to sit on a set and watch.
Well, there's like two ways of filmmaking, really. That are like two methods of filmmaking that I think most people start out in one, which is shoot as much coverage as you can, every angle you possibly can. If you have the time, shoot close up, medium, wide, like, flip the room, shoot this direction and that direction, to shoot as much as you can. And then in the edit, you're like, okay, I want to start with the wide and we're going to punch the close up on this line. And now we're going to like jump our 180 because it's like impactful for this moment or whatever. Like you're figuring it out in the edit, which is an expensive way to shoot and a very time-consuming way to shoot because you're just shooting everything with no real direction. And that is definitely a way to do it. That's kind of how Spielberg does movies and has always done stuff, as they just shoot the coverage of the scene, or he'll just walk it. He doesn't plan it anymore because he's just been doing stuff forever. He'll just walk it. He's the first guy to show up on set. And he sits on set, and sometimes he'll bring stand-ins or his actors, and they'll just kind of walk through it, and he'll figure it all out right then and there. Okay, we're going to start with a wide, we're going to move into this, and he'll shoot just what he needs, but he'll figure it out on the day. I shoot for the edit. I know what that scene's going to look like already. I've already thought it through or storyboarded it out. or just written out shot for shot what each thing is. Sometimes I have scenes like very well planned out. If it's a fight scene or something that's going to require a lot of that, like I know, or we've already rehearsed it, already shot it with just stand-ins and stuff like months before, so that way we know what it's going to be. Or I for a lot of undesirables, I planned out some of the big moments, but some of the small moments in the movie, some of the just between two characters talking, I hadn't necessarily planned it out. So I would show up to set first and read through the script and just start writing down the shots. And now that I've been working with the actors for a few days, like kind of it spawned new ideas because I'm like, oh, they're way better than like maybe I thought they would be for the scene. So now it's like, I bet you we could try something different, like that I originally had. Like it's always changing. Like you can plan, which is always recommended. But on the day, you can throw that plan out still. I mean,
Right.
because you like I planned for 6 hours to shoot this. I've got one, so
Yeah.
because if you're running behind, things change throughout the day, and you will run behind. It's just
So the process of going through a movie, because this has fascinated me too. It goes from a writing a story to a script to a screenplay, or
yes and no, depends on the writer that you're working with. For me, I've written a lot of shorts. I've not written a feature, but the two features I directed, for Undesirables, which is like Undesirables is my story. I had all these characters in mind. I had a story. I wrote like a 4-page treatment of what that outline of the movie looked like. I gave it to a friend of mine who's a writer. He kicked back like a 90-page script, or it's like the total pages ended up being like 110 pages or something like that. He shot me back some other ideas to add to the story. Um, one being a very major, impactful decision that was not one of my decisions; it was his, which is that in Undesirables, there's a kind of a Children of Men scenario where there's not been a child born for like the last 20 years. So that's the dystopian future that we're in, is there's no children. And that is a very heavy plot to the entire film. And that wasn't in my original draft of it, or in my original, like my treatment that I wrote out. But that's what I did for that one. And then Macabre Mountain already had a script when we got brought onto the project. But we had a lot of things that we needed that had to be added to the script in order to make it possible for us to shoot it. So we had to do a complete like rewrite of the entire thing, and I used the same writer that we did with Undesirables, Michael Taylor. I contacted Michael and my another writer, Jake Baker, and I brought them together. I was like, "Hey guys, we have the script. We're shooting in like, I think at that point we had like 60 days before we were shooting, and I was like, we need to rework the script to fit in X, Y, and Z, all this other stuff that we had." And so we reworked the whole thing as a team, and then it went from there. But that one started with a script. So like the idea is like, story, script, screenplay, and then like you could even, you've also got like a shooting script sometimes too, which is like, this is the script that the actors get. This is the script that we're actually shooting on the day. So it all depends on who you're working with and how they operate. For me personally, it's usually bouncing ideas off a wall for an eternity, and then I'm like,
yeah.
And then I'm right now working on 2 scripts, and I'm determined to write them. I love Michael and his writing, but I want the next feature that I do, I want to have written the whole thing myself too.
Okay, so are you going to write the story? So you're not just writing the story; you're writing all the dialogue for all the characters and everything.
For this one, yeah. And the way that I've been working the story is it's overall like thematically about grief, but I have an interesting concept that spawned the idea, and then this is a movie that's been in my head for like, man, I mean, a decade. I don't know. It's been before I was making movies. I've been thinking about making this movie. So I have this initial concept that I had And then over the years, I've just been adding all these other things to it. And I've been writing all those things down or recording them on a recorder. And I just always have random ideas for this one particular project. And here recently, I've started using ChatGPT to funnel all my ideas into an outline. So I'm a like firm believer of using the technology that we have at our disposal, especially in the indie world. Now, I'm not a huge fan of like the AI generated art stuff, but I do very much see a purpose for it, especially in filmmaking. And we can dive into that if you want to. But for this particular reason, I use ChatGPT a lot to like just consolidate ideas. I'm just like, this is what happens in this scene, this is what happens in this scene, this is what happens in this scene, and then these characters come together, and then this and this and this and this, and all this stuff happens, and then I'm like, put that into an outline, and it just goes, boop, here's an outline. And I'm like, cool. Can you add this to the outline? Cool. It's just like having a secretary or somebody, you know what I mean, to just like spew ideas at, and then they're just like putting it into beat by beat. This is where it belongs in the story structure. I'm like, and I just keep feeding it more information. And sometimes I'll be like, here's a really graphic, violent scene that you need to add in this. And ChatGPT will go, okay, but before I add it to the scene, I need you to know that this is a really delicate topic and you need to approach this with like gentle hands. I'm like, oh yeah, I know, but just put it in the scene. It's fine.
I think that's an excellent way to use AI.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
It's like your robot accountant.
Yeah.
File this.
It's almost like a Jarvis for yourself.
Because I have all this stuff, and I've written out my own outline for it, and I just keep having new ideas. So I'll just pull up that ChatGPT thing and just add the new idea to it, and the outline's getting really long and really convoluted. So now I'm like pulling things out of it, like thinning it out and just making it more concise. But I've written 10 pages of the actual script so far, and I've got pages of notes and audio recordings and tons of stuff on that one. That's like a kind of a big movie idea.
You ever think it'll start writing its own movies?
Well, I tested it to see, just when ChatGPT was like first hitting the media and stuff. I was like, especially right now with the strikes and everything that's going on, I was like, well, how possible is it for ChatGPT just to knock out a script for me? And so I like gave it a concept for a story and was like, write this movie script, and it told me no. It said that it would take an hour too much processing power to write an entire script. I was like, okay, well, you write the opening scene. So it wrote me an opening scene, and it's garbage. Like the dialogue in that scene is atrocious, and like just the scene itself is like not interesting. So I think we're far away from it just being able to just like, I don't know, write anything interesting or like with a soul. There's just nothing. There's definitely something missing from it, like completely.
It doesn't have its own personality yet.
Yeah,
It will.
It'll become its own Jarvis.
So, and this fascinates the world of writing fascinates me because I would love to be able to do it.
I got friends that are so good, man. Like Tom Commissar.
Yeah.
If you hook him on an idea, he will knock out an entire 90-page script in a weekend.
And that's like opening scene and
That's
like
it's
dialogue. And
it's everything. And then, I can bounce ideas like, oh, hey, I like this and this. Can you change that and this? And he'll be like, cool. And I'll just knock it out. Michael's the same way. You get Michael hooked on a thing, and then he'll take a week and just sit on it. He's a theater director too. So he writes a lot of those plays as well.
Yeah, that whole thing fascinates me. Writing, cameras and lighting and all that stuff is just it's just a world that I would love to be in. That's for sure. Just never my boat didn't go that direction, I guess.
I miss my theater days.
Yeah, I would love to be in that world. That is for sure.
Yeah, I never did the theater thing. I was in a play in 8th grade, but
that was your extent.
That's my extent of
I did like what 3 plays?
Yeah, I think you did 3 or 4.
Yeah,
and then I did once I was in high school. I did sound and the set construction.
My friends and I used to do videos in town. I don't even know where those are at.
I've heard of a couple of those videos.
Yeah, they're not. They're just us doing stupid shit in town.
We all did that.
Yeah, and video recording it with a little handheld, you know, the little handy
Now
cam.
you got mascots use a smartphone to do that.
So yeah, we didn't have smartphones back then. So we did that and we had fun, but it wasn't like we wrote scripts or anything like that. But
Yeah, I mean, when we first started doing stuff, in high school, it was just, hey, we made a movie about like a couple guys breaking into a house. There was no script. We were just winging that the whole thing.
yeah.
We shot that till the sun came up.
So so you are working on some stuff now, obviously.
Yeah.
And the whole editing process, that is just like cutting. Do you have, I guess it's all digital now. You don't actually have film.
Right.
Did you ever have film?
In high school, for photography, I took a class and developed my own film and did that for photography, not for video.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's all digital now. Do you have like programs on your computer that does all that?
Yeah, I mean, I use the Adobe Creative Cloud, like Adobe Premiere and After Effects and stuff like that. Photoshop. I use all that stuff for editing, which is entirely too expensive. If you want to get into it, use DaVinci Resolve. It's free and incredible, and it's an industry standard. Everybody uses it anyway. I don't know why I'm paying so much money. It's because I learned it and I know it, and I'm too stubborn to learn a new program.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Now you said that Parallels was in PopCon, the film festival. You had mentioned to me earlier this evening before we got on the podcast. What's the process of getting your film into a film festival?
Well, not only did we have that in Ability, but we also ran 2 film festivals here in Logansport for 5 years straight. So we did Midwest Horror Fest and Midwest Action Fest.
I think my mom helped promote that.
Yeah. We did those for 5 years straight. We had celebrity guests and things coming to town. We did, when we started, it was a full weekend. We would get hundreds of movies submitted to us. We were watching indie movies nonstop all year round. And during that time frame, we weren't really making a lot of our own stuff. So we quit doing the film festivals to focus more on making our own movies. But doing that, we learned the film circuit and how it all works and how to submit your own films and all that. So it's really, really easy, actually. I mean, there's a website called Film Freeway. You can sign up on it as a film festival or as a creator that you're trying to submit yourself to those festivals. It's universally used. I mean, it's every country. It's nationwide or international. So I can submit my movies to any and all film festivals across the globe, but you have to pay to submit your movie. So. And movie submissions, that's another thing you don't think about when you're making a movie is when it's done, what do you do with that movie? Because you can, when you start getting to the point where you're spending a lot of money to make a movie, you're spending, like Undesirables is a movie that was fully funded by like Rad Entertainment and producers locally, it was a $35,000 movie. A lot of my own money went in that movie. A lot of we got producers here in town that we brought in, Bill Thompson contributed to it, and Science Project contributed to it. So we had a lot of people that just threw a lot of money at us to help make that movie, which is great. But when that movie's done, what do you do with it? For some people, film festivals is definitely an option to get it in front of people, but you have to include that in your budget because film festival, that stuff, it adds up fast. If you're submitting a bunch of film festivals, some of them was like $10 a pop, but if you want to submit your movie to Cannes or something like that, if you have a lot of faith and you want to go to Cannes Film Festival or Sundance or something like that, those film festivals are more expensive. Those are like $50 to submit your film, and it depends on when you get it too. I think Cannes is $40 in their early deadline, but their late deadline's like $100. So, if you want to try and just put those on your calendar and get them in as early as possible, if you're trying to go that route. But yeah, that's a great way to, especially for short films, that's where you need to put them is in the film festival circuit, because it's really easy to get a movie. Not easy, but it's people are more willing to show your film if it's a short than a feature. A feature you commit a lot of time to a public audience to watch this thing. It better be good the whole time.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's an option, and then there's also distribution options. So with distribution in the indie world, Idol Girl's on Amazon Prime, and it's on Tubi. It's we're self-distributed for that production. It's also on a bunch of like foreign streaming services and stuff too. It's kind of a little all over the place right now. But we do have our foot in the door with a couple of streaming services. I don't want to say on the podcast necessarily, but we do have our foot in the door with a couple of streaming services that are interested in the undesirables and interested in potentially Macabre Mountain. So we might have our foot in the door with some streaming services coming up in the near future, which would be cool. But there are companies that pick up indie films like Wild Eye Productions. Some of H&M films are on Wild Eye. We have some friends from Ohio they're Concept Media. They have a movie called Don't Fuck in the Woods, and they have Don't Fuck in the Woods too. and that's
Is there a trilogy? Is there going to be a trilogy?
There's going to be a trilogy. I'm pretty sure the third movie has time travel in it. But
so
Don't Fuck in the Woods threesome.
Yeah.
But those movies, have some pretty widespread distribution. So it's like, how can you make money off that? Off that movie after it's done. How do you make that money back? You spend $35,000 making a movie. Like, is it just down the drain, or you got this cool project, all these people are involved. How do you get it in front of people? And what is your goal with that project? Is your goal just to get people to see it? Are you trying to make money off of it? I've got some plans in the works for self-distribution for the future that I'm really excited about trying out. I think will be different and interesting, especially in today's world. So, it's just distribution is like a whole thing. I've been trying to figure that out for a long time. I think that's everybody in the indie world is just really trying to figure out the best options for distribution.
They're so, and I'm going to make it sound way more simple than I'm sure that it is. It's probably going to irritate the piss out of you, but there's so many streaming services out there now.
Yeah.
Bonus Pints is a craft beer and wine spin on the classic arcade, located at 422 East Broadway in beautiful downtown Logansport. Bonus Pints is the anchor of the Bonus Building on the corner of Broadway and 5th Street. They have all your favorite classic arcade games and both classic and current pinball machines. Every Wednesday is trivia, and every Thursday and Friday there is live music. Come and bring your friends. The food, the music, the games, and the people.
Especially, I would think, for like indie
for
horror.
everyone at
Well,
Bonus
that
Pints.
Shutter specifically on
Shutter,
Amazon.
Screenbox. The Clue documentary, oddly enough, because I'm a huge Clue the movie fan from 1985. The documentary is on Screenbox, so I literally had to buy Screenbox so that I could watch the Clue documentary. And then I found out that they had a Robert Englund documentary, Child's Play documentary, and they just released. They're going to do episodes of a RoboCop documentary. So it's like 4 episodes of like a RoboCop documentary. So it's kind of
I have this real pet peeve of like streaming services. I don't I go on a huge rant about the oversaturation of the market right now, and the right now as a filmmaker, you should be able to get a job. There are so many damn things being made all the time. I mean, not right now in this very moment because of the strikes and all that stuff, on that aside, but there's so many streaming services creating so much stuff all the time that as an indie filmmaker, if you make something and you're really proud of it and you want people to see it, don't put it on a streaming service because nobody will fucking watch it. Because
It'll just sit in the backlog.
Because it'll fall in the backlog. It's just like dropping your thing into a well. Like, I mean, there's so much that is just out there that it is like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
yeah.
Okay, that movie got offered distribution through Netflix, if I remember correctly. Like, it could have come out as a Netflix original movie, and they said no. Like that was their like it was A24 picked it up, but if I remember correctly, Netflix gave them a first offer, and it was with a lot of money, and they told them no, and they went the long route on it because they wanted people to see it, and it won Best Picture. If it would have went to Netflix, it would have not won Best Picture.
Right.
There's
Right.
no way. It would have barely been talked about. It maybe would have been talked about for a week, and then would have been gone.
Right.
Or
And
maybe people would have found it 2 years later.
right, but there's such a giant well of content. I'm using air quotes on a podcast. Content. I hate the term content a lot. And it stems from a lot of like kind of like the YouTube space, because as a creator and content creator for YouTube, if you're pumping out stuff every week, that's what you are, man. You're making content. I'm not saying that people aren't making art and that there are creative things happening there, but you're trying to feed the algorithm that is YouTube by releasing all this stuff. And now streaming services like Disney, if you watch interviews with Bob Iger, all he does is talk about the content that they're releasing on their platform and how their content's premium and better than everybody else's content. It's not content, it's art. And people are fucking pouring their heart and souls into this stuff.
Right.
And then it just gets released as content to fill a platform that then gets like erased from existence if people don't watch it. Disney released 2 movies earlier this year on Disney Plus that went straight to streaming, that were on their platform for a week, and then they pulled them because no one was watching them. And now those filmmakers that made that movie, they can't watch their own movie because it doesn't exist anymore. Like there are
I didn't hear about that.
and maybe they weren't very good. I don't know. I mean, but it's just a thing where
I mean, they have to be decent to go on. Oh, well,
Disney, Disney
yeah,
made
no,
them.
you said Disney
It was funded
original.
by Disney, but it's like you're funding these projects like the Batgirl movie.
Yeah. That's sitting on a shelf.
They made an entire movie, and then was like, oh, it's one that's cheaper. Just we'll save money if we get a write off on it. We'll actually make money if we just write it off instead of releasing it.
Instead of releasing it. Yeah. Film the entire movie. It was done.
Content is king right now. They don't really give a shit about quality at all. It is just how much stuff can we get on our platform, so we have more stuff than them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And it drives me insane. So as an indie filmmaker right now, I am starting to feel a little bit lost in what it is that I'm doing with everything that we're making. I have shifted my perspective pretty hard over the last couple of years into I'm sick of making everybody else's things. I've been hired and done so much stuff for all these other movies. And now I want to make just Rad Entertainment stuff. Like it's either I'm directing, Rebecca's directing, or I'm filming stuff for just the people that I've worked closely with over the years. My friend Roman, who I've talked about a couple times, he has a short film that we're shooting next month, and I'm just gonna go shoot that. I'm not getting paid. I'm just gonna go take a weekend and shoot a short film with him because we're friends and it's awesome, and I love making movies. Like it's just like we're gonna make this probably 5-minute short that's gonna be cool and fun, and that's more where I'm at with it now. And but that's what it's a little short. We'll probably throw in some film festivals or something. But with the big budget stuff that we're doing, like big budget being $30,000 is a no budget movie if you're talking Hollywood stuff. But with that stuff, it's like, where do you put it? But I've got some ideas. I got some ideas that don't involve streaming services. Even though I do have some streaming services that are interested in watching it, I have some ideas that might be harder to do, but maybe will gain me traction in a way that's. I just want people to watch it. I don't want to just like drop in a well and then nobody sees it.
But you just want people to see what you made.
I'm not going to see it. I think I hate it. I don't care. I want them to be able to at least see it and give me their opinion.
Right.
So are you, have you guys considered bringing the Midwest Film Festival back?
No, not really. We got asked that the other day too. We made a lot of really cool connections and had a lot of fun doing it. But we're just moving on from it. We really, we really want to just make our own stuff, and the film festivals are just really time consuming.
No.
And we had small crew. I mean, it was mostly me and Rebecca doing a lot of it. We had some people that were judges and watched the movies with us and stuff, but we watched every single one of those movies. I mean, Rebecca specifically watched every movie that got submitted, every single one.
Wow,
And
that's gonna be tough.
it is tough, man. It's tough. Like, I mean, the Horror Fest alone in our last year, I think we got over 300 submissions, and like, it's a lot of movies, man. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time to watch. You watch them all year round. You're watching them all year
Back
watching.
to back at times.
Yo, I mean, we're just marathoning them. You know, we just go, okay, Sunday all day. Wake up, just watching these movies all day. 'Cause if we don't watch them, how are we gonna?
Yeah, you're not gonna
get
get
through them. Like, we had to watch them. We watch them all, and a lot of duds, but lot of really good promise. People that would submit stuff one year and not get in, and then submit something the next year, but hey, you know what? This is great, and and then they get in. We met lots of really cool people. We met we had filmmakers that came to Logansport from Japan.
Jesus.
We had accepted a film Japanese, like kind of an action, kind of a crime movie, and they came to Logansport very first time in America to see their movie played at the State Theater here, and it was awesome. We had a great time. Took them all to the bar afterwards when they didn't speak like hardly any English. It was a ton of fun. And then a few years later, they released they shot another movie, and it's about online gambling and poker, like online poker games. And they had to have this crew of American poker players, and we're all in that movie. We shot it here with our cameras and green screens, and we're in a Japanese indie film.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I mean, doing the film festivals, we met a lot of really fun people, a lot of made some real cool connections. There's a group of guys from Canada. Shout out to Jason and Brett and Raphael. They are they work for or at least Jason Brett do, or they work for Fox Montreal, I think. They work on all the X-Men movies. So all the X-Men movies, they're the props, weapon handlers, stunt guys. They do all that stuff. They've done tons of stuff. Jason's the voice of Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy video game.
Really?
Oh, really?
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, he's in the new Scream movie. Did you guys see that? The sixth Scream movie.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's in the convenience store scene. He's the convenience store clerk that gets shotgunned by his face. That's Jason. Jason's awesome. He's been a huge fan of everything that we've been doing. He's always been super supportive. This film festivals, we met some really cool people. We loved doing it. We just don't have time for it.
Yeah, I get that. Brad and I were talking earlier about producing.
Yeah.
So he had an analogy, but it was what he pictures. How does producing a movie work exactly?
There's a bunch of different levels of producers and what that means on a set, and it's a very broad term, I think. The term producer usually ties to money. Okay. Usually the person who's funding the project is the head producer on it, like the executive producer. I think on a television show, the top producers, the executive producers that they're credited as. On a movie, the top producer is just producer, and then there's executive producer underneath them. I don't know what the difference, why they change it for that. But usually producer is the person with the money who's funding the project, therefore they have a say in how that project is handled.
Okay.
So when you're talking like big Hollywood stuff, like the Flash movie, which is kind of a big shit show of a film because it had 4 directors that directed the movie because they either quit or got fired, and most likely due to too much studio interference with the project that they're making. So too many producers telling them what to do or how something should be made or how it should be done. I think if you bring somebody to a project, you should trust their vision on it. I do understand that if you feel as though they're going in a wrong direction with it and you're the one fronting all this money, but in the same vein, DC and Marvel, they have so much money.
Yeah, they can just shuffle people in and out. I mean, really, honestly.
Yeah,
They've got so much money. Like, what are they losing? Every movie that Marvel or that DC has released, the last 5 movies they've released have all bombed. They've all not made their money back. So what does it matter at this point? Just like give an artist like let them do it and see what happens. I would much rather have a movie that's a concise vision than a clusterfuck of a bunch of different people's visions.
Or maybe pay them fair enough and they won't write crap.
Right.
You know, they'll put a little more effort in if they feel valued.
Well, we get back to that, like circle back to that thing of content over quality. Like it doesn't matter unless it's done. You know, it's just like they don't. But you know, but they also think it should be done a certain way. They want it to be a certain tone, and they'll change their mind in that tone because one movie was successful that came out while they're making that movie. It's annoying, but as producers are concerned, that's what most people think about when they think about producers is the person with the money. Now, there's other levels of producers. When I produce a movie, I'm usually coming on as like a creative producer. So I come on a project with like say parallels of a producer. I'm producing that movie, and I'm also the cinematographer. And part of producing that movie was donating a lot of my pay back to the project, also providing all the equipment for the project, providing funding for certain aspects of the project, also being involved in the script writing. Like Daniel wrote that script and was like, but he was open to changes. Like he was open to collaborating on it, you know. So like I came on as a creative producer from a perspective of I've made a lot of movies. It's his first movie. He's also worked though on sets, like lots of sets. So it's not like he was coming in completely dry. But he trusted my vision. And so I came on as a creative producer to just like be like, this is what I think we should do. Ultimately, always director's decision. I will lay out the paths and these are the things we can do, but always it's your show, man. Like pick a direction, let's go for it. So I came as creative producer there. You also have like associate producers, which you can give an associate producer to anyone for any real reason that you want to. Like if you have a guy on set that just busted his ass the whole time and donated a lot of his time to it, or worked overtime and just was like just a real showstopper, just out there just doing it. You'd be like, hey man, I'm gonna throw you an associate producer credit on this movie because that just helps your resume when you're going on to make another thing. Somebody's willing to hire you because, oh, hey, you worked as a gaffer on this, and then Andrew, an associate producer, talked to me about why do you get associate producer credit? Because and sometimes you can, we sell those kind of credits too in the Indiegogo space. Like if you want to help fund the movie and you want to throw, like you got like $300 you want to throw at it, with giving an associate producer credit for that. It's just like, it's not enough money to, to warrant like an executive producer thing. If you're going to throw thousands of dollars at it, we'll talk. But if you got like a few $100 you want to throw at a movie, like we'll throw you an associate producer credit. So there's a lot of different levels of producers and how you can be a producer in that. I think the best producers are those who have worked in the industry, like Felissa Rose, who you may know from Sleepaway Camp, and like Hatchet and those kind of movies. But she's
in a newer movie that you're doing too, right?
Yeah, she's in Undesirables and she's in Macon Mountain.
Okay,
but she's a producer on Macon Mountain, and her role as a producer was she built the team. She was the one who called me. She was like, "Hey, we're making this movie, and I'd love to bring you on as a director." Like she built the team that made that movie and trusted the people that she put in there. I think she's an excellent producer when it comes to like her vision, like the people that she pulled together. Because I wasn't involved in casting. I didn't do any of that. Like it was her and Xander Goldman. So Xander Goldman was the main producer on it, but they pulled together a lot of people and trusted everybody's vision and let us, to a degree, do what it is that we wanted to do. That was my first experience working with producers that have like heavy hands-on the project. So there's a lot of stuff in it that wasn't exactly the direction that I would have taken it, but as a final product, that's why I love filmmaking, is everybody has a say-so in it, even if it's your movie, your director, it's your vision, whatever. But you do have producers that have money invested into a project. So you have to meet a standard you put into a box. And I think that creativity breeds from being put into a box. I just went on a huge rant about letting an artist do their thing. But at the same time, if you have restraints, especially budgetary restraints, and that's why indie filmmaking is fun, is because you don't have a lot of money. So you got to figure it out.
You got to be creative.
Yeah,
for sure.
You have to. You can't just like, oh man, I want this crane shot. I want this camera to swoop in and throw stuff. And it's like, yeah, me too. But like, we got $12 for the day, so let's
Yeah.
how can
Let's just put Bobby on top of the ladder and have him jump off. That's gonna be.
So I mean, there's just like this, like how do you okay, why do you want that crane shot? What's the emotion that you are getting in that scene? How can we do that differently and still convey that same emotion?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff in parallels, especially. There's a lot of really cool stuff in that movie that just came from being like stuck on a thing. Like, okay, well, let's just do it this way because we don't have enough time. And actually, it's infinitely better than what we had that we were going to set up time for anyway. Like,
Yeah, and I'm sure it's really hard when I mean, that's what the indie is all about, is that you don't have that big budget to do that thing. So you've got to find the other way to do it.
yeah.
Or create, I mean, the stories from Star Wars, making the stuff out of soap dispensers, or making the stuff out of the paper towel holders. That's how they built a lot of their props, because budget wasn't a huge issue, but it kind of was, because Star Wars was not like, it wasn't what the budget would be today, but it was still a decent budget for back in 1977, I'm sure. But they still had to be creative with what they made. So
I mean, when you look at those movies, like the indie movies, like even like Clerks is still like a $10 million movie. You know what I mean? I mean, like these, or maybe that one. That was probably not. That was probably not. That was probably
he made, what did he say? He said he made Clerks for. He claims he made Clerks for $25,000.
I was gonna say that was a bad example because I don't know what that one is. It was, and even,
but I think he made Mallrats. I think it cost him $10 million to make Mallrats.
Right, but back in the day, you had to rent all that equipment, and it was all on film, and there was like a lot of money is wrapped up in just the camera rentals and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like and lighting and all that. It was so expensive.
Do you own your own equipment now?
I own enough equipment to do like commercials for people and stuff. Like I do. I do a lot of commercial work for small businesses. Okay. So I have enough equipment to do something like that. But when it comes to the movies, we rent everything. I mean, not everything. We own a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. We own a lot of equipment. But when it comes to the actual camera and lenses, I always rent camera and lenses for the production, because I rent something that's better than what I own. But here recently with the last few productions.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, camera rental stuff it's the best way to go.
Where do you rent something like that?
I rent it online. There's a couple of different online houses.
They package it up and send it to you?
Yep, then it ships out of Tennessee. I get it usually 2 days before production, just to run through, test everything. I own a ton of batteries and all the stuff, power, all the stuff that we usually rent, so that way I can save money on all the rental fees. I usually just rent a camera and lenses, and then I have all the other equipment like gimbals and all that stuff.
What's a gimbal?
It's like it's like a thing you strap the camera to. So okay, it makes it level.
Makes it okay.
So you can walk it. Maybe this is I own a thing, a piece of kit called a tilt-a-float, which has a gimbal mounted on top of it. So it's a big pole that has a gimbal on it, that has the camera mounted in that, and then the pole is attached to a giant metal arm that is on a vest that I wear that holds the weight of it all. So that way, like they used to call they still call them steady cams on set, which you'll if you watch behind the scenes, it's always been a big camera on a pole and the dude arm like doing it. It's a combination of a steady cam and a gimbal together. So now I can swivel it down to the floor. And so, like, follow a character from their feet, and then pan up to their face and do a walk and talk. So, guys, we walk with them to like introduce characters, and then it just kind of moves around. We bought that for Macabre Mountain because we were shooting 16 pages a day, and I needed something that I could run around with. And I felt like it was going to be like really run and gun thing. That piece of equipment saved that movie. I mean, I don't think we could have shot it if I didn't have it. So.
How long did it take you to shoot that?
Macabre Mountain, we had 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, we shot it in 2 weeks, or maybe it was a little more than 2 weeks. It was 18 days. I think it was 18 days is what we originally scheduled it for, but we actually wrapped 2 days early, which was awesome. So it never happens.
And you directed that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Directed and did cinematography. Okay.
Yeah. I was hired to direct that movie, so that was a cool project. It was the first movie that I got paid to direct, which was awesome.
Yeah. It's in post production, according to your IMDb.
It is. It is. I have 3 shots left in that movie to edit. I have to replace a green screen in that, and there's 3 shots that it's just a TV monitor behind the character, and that's it. And it's done tomorrow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's
like
cool.
it is done this weekend. It's done. I'm so excited for it to be done. I've been working on the movie for over a year now.
Between filming and
Between pre-production to today,
okay.
it's been over a year. It premieres in West Virginia at the end of the month, at the end of September, and
Film festival.
No, it's just in the town that we filmed it at. We filmed it in West Virginia, so we're just doing the premiere there. And then it's going to have some screenings, and then it may. I don't really know what the plan is for distribution with that one. I don't own it and own the rights to it or anything, but I hope to travel around to the screenings with it and everything, but I don't own any rights to it at all. So we'll see what happens with it. As far as I know, they have some plans for distribution. So we'll see if they pan out.
Have you ever filmed anything out of the country? Like, have you traveled out of the country?
No, but I do have 2 projects that are right now kind of in the works that are both in Canada that I might end up doing. But a couple of friends of mine.
Okay. So, what's the strangest place that you've had to
Las
film?
Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Okay, specifically in Las Vegas. We filmed on a soundstage for the majority of what we shot there, which is the same soundstage that they shoot Brazzers porn.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I bet that was cleanly.
I didn't give it.
Actually, it was a super awesome set. That dude,
I'm sure it was sanitized.
that dude does a awesome job.
Was he a producer on the film?
That movie or that set, dude, that guy that ran that set was so cool because he just does construction for a living, or he did construction his whole life, and he just got to the point where he was sick of like building houses, and so he's rented a warehouse and was like, I'll just rent it out like for movie sets, and he immediately got contacted for porn, and he said he just that's like, we need a doctor's office. He just builds a doctor's office. And he leaves, and they shoot their scenes, and he comes back, and they're like, now he's be like a jail cell. They're like, make it a jail cell, and then he gets paid extra if they want him as a handyman on set to like build stuff on the fly as they need it. So that's awesome. Like when we were making that movie, he's like, this is cool, man. It's the first thing I've shot while it wasn't porn. And the first day that we were there, it was a jail cell, and then he had to completely flip the set. We went home, we went back to the Airbnb, slept. The next day, showed the set. It was like when we showed up the first day, it's all just concrete grayed out bars. It's jail cell. We walk in the next day, everything's white as can be. It's a psych room, like everybody's like strapped in jackets, and it was super cool. It was awesome. And then we had an office set there. We had 2 different offices. We needed 2 offices, 2 separate looking offices. So we had to build 2 offices in there. I mean, it was various hallways that he had to build. There's lots of cool stuff that he had to put together. And he has just like a warehouse just full of props. He's just like, what do you need? And he's just like chucking stuff off this bridge. Just like, you guys need like what? Well, oh, we got stuff for doctors. Like his stethoscope. It's like
Got a full crate of dildos.
This is a fun time. It's definitely the weirdest place that I've shot a movie just because of the porn aspect of it. But shot a lot of movies in the woods. That's always sucked. It sucks being in the woods.
I like the woods.
Cameras, equipment gets dirty.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Stuff getting dirty, charging batteries. It's just hard. It's hard to film stuff in the woods, man. It's like you're like, oh, let's Blair Witch it and just make a horror movie in the woods. It always sounds like an easy thing to do, and you get out there like, this sucks. Roman invested in a wagon so we can just drag our equipment all over the woods. We have a movie we're doing with Roman next year in the woods. In the woods, but we also have a sound stage where we're building the woods. for some
Oh, that's
scenes.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind
All
of
the dialogue scenes that take place like at night and stuff, we're just going to build the woods.
Where's the soundstage at?
It's all the same property that the woods is on. Like it's a campground that we're shooting it all at.
Oh, okay.
All the campground, they have like a big warehouse building that they're letting us use to build the woods.
Oh, that's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
But, like the more we do it, the more like we're like, it sucks to shoot in the woods. How can we not do it? I'll just build the woods. That'll be way easier.
Yeah, way easier, especially if you have the budget to do that. With,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So we're getting to that point now. Like, trying to think of like if there's any other weird places that we've shot. We shoot in the scene in Idle Girl where Rebecca's character gets shot in the gas station.
Yeah.
That gas station was totally open and people were coming in and out the whole time. So he's just back there with this gun, like holding her up hostage. These people just walking in and out. That's fucking hilarious.
That was the gas station.
That's on top of College.
Oh, yeah. That's on top of the hill. Yeah. That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
So did you like just walk in and like tell the clerk, hey, you want to shoot
we had talked with him months in advance.
Oh, okay. All right. Was she like still like, we're shooting a movie, it's fine? Like,
yeah.
we're shooting a girl.
Yeah, no, they knew we were going to film. We had okayed everything with them.
Okay.
We're really good with respect to people's property and
besides the Gothras.
Yeah. Gothras was very much like, let's just shoot this and run. Like, we shot that in like, we were in that parking lot for less than 5 minutes, I think. So that was a one take one.
That's hilarious. Hey, it works. It worked perfectly.
Yeah. But yeah, we there's some of that stuff. Some of it's that way. Some of it is very planned out. Like Undesirables, we shut down a street in town for a scene.
You shot a lot of that in Logan.
That
right?
entire movie was shot in Logansport.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited people see that because it's entirely shot in Logansport. We shot across the street here over at the Historical Society building for a good chunk of it. We used because it's a heist movie that takes place after the heist, like ripping off Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
So we use the safe in there. You see part of the heist, and then upstairs there is like the villain's kind of headquarters of like this big office building that we needed, and then the majority of the movie is shot over at Riverview Restaurant. We shot that movie. They close at like 10 p.m. and open at 6 a.m. 8-hour block for us to film in every night. We filmed 10 days straight, night shoots there, only having an 8-hour window to film in. So really only filming for like 5 or 6 hours of, maybe talking about like setup and getting going, like 5-6 hours a day. We got really well oiled into that so we could start as soon as we possibly could. They let us keep all of our equipment there. We had to tear everything down every night and like pack it up into a side space, but then we could just drag it out easy. We didn't have to like load the cars or anything. That was such. But yeah, I mean that was hard. We were like there's a scene where there's a scene where a lot of people die in that movie, and one of the guys gets shot in the back of the head. He's on the ground, and blood spatters across the whole floor, and I've got like this like overhead shot and just across the floor. And we were like mopping blood up, and it's like 6 a.m. and they're like rolling in, and we're just like rinsing out mop buckets of just like red. Like, have a good day, guys.
So it's kind of it's your ode to Reservoir Dogs then.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of sort of.
There were two main like concepts that spawned that movie for me, which was I love crime movies. That's my favorite genre. Undesirables is the only movie that we've made that's not a horror movie. I'm pretty sure that's right. Pretty sure. I've made up movies for other people. That's not Heart and Mind's a drama about a guy cheating on his wife. But
I kind of argue I didn't find Idle Girl too much of a horror besides like two jump scares.
Well, it's got zombies in it. There's a horror element to the movie.
Okay.
Idle Girl we call a Christmas crime movie is what we actually call it.
That makes a lot of sense.
We don't call it. We say it's a Christmas crime movie with a horror twist. But everything's like at least in that world of horror. Undesirables is a dystopian future crime film, and it's a crime movie through. There are two elements of that movie that like kind of help spawn that idea, which was I was always jealous kind of that idea that of like Reservoir Dogs, like, oh, how genius of it to like make a heist that takes place after the heist. And I'm like, well, I can just do that. That's fine. Like, because every movie that Tarantino does is just a rip off of 7 other movies anyway. Because that's every director and how they operate and how art is made anyway. So I'm like, all right, so let's just steal that idea from there. And then the actual concept of the movie originally, if you read the original script that I wrote, which is 8 pages, before I wrote the treatment, I had 8 pages of a script that I had written of 3 characters that were sitting at a table having a conversation kind of about, and it's like after a heist, and they don't trust each other, and it's just like a conversation between these 3 characters. And the idea was there's a Alfred Hitchcock concept of how to create tension within a scene, how to build like dramatic tension, which is like having 2 characters talking from across the table with each other, and they talk for if these 2 characters talk for 10 minutes and then the restaurant explodes, there's no tension. It's just like a kind of quick shock, and you kind of forget what happened, But if you let these 2 characters talk for 3 minutes and then reveal a bomb that's strapped to the bottom of that table that has a countdown on it, and then come back to that conversation, you as the audience know that that bomb is about to go off, and these 2 people are sitting here fucking talking about nothing. And they have no idea. So the tension is building because this has got 5 minutes left on the timer and it's about to blow up, and then when it blows up, there's tension there. So the idea for Undesirables originally was supposed to be a short film that was going to take place after a heist, and all shit was going to hit the fan at a certain point, and we're going to set that up. And then the concept just kind of grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's what it is. It is characters that are at a diner. That's their meeting place after a heist, and you're trying to figure out as an audience member what they stole, why, and kind of like what the point of it all is. And it's a lot. It's kind of a dialogue-driven movie. We're not entirely there. We bounce around at some other locations, and there's some action sequences, and some gunshots, and some violence, and some blood, and some stuff in it. But ultimately, it is a movie where you are trying to figure out who you can trust and you can't trust. And I think it's.
Are you releasing? Are you gonna how close is that to being done?
It's still in kind of early stages. Macabre Mountain, getting hired to direct that movie kind of pushed Undesirables in the back burner. It's I have right now in the edit, I think I have 40 minutes of the edit, and it's probably going to be about a 90-minute movie. About halfway through the edit right now, and I'm really excited where I'm at in the edit because we're about to it's about to jump scene locations and do some really cool stuff. So I'm excited for it. That movie's definitely more my baby in the sense of it is the story that I created. I cast that film. I brought on, I handpicked all the crew and Michael and I made that movie. The writer, Michael is also the lead actor in the film. He is a producer on it. He threw a lot of his own money into it. I couldn't have done without him. But
so are you going to premiere that in Logansport?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll premiere.
Mary Max.
I think we're gonna do a 2-night premiere. We're gonna do. I think we're gonna do the State Theater Friday night, Mary Max Saturday night.
Okay.
Potentially, I mean, that's just kind of that's what we're gonna do. Only because
Saturday.
Only because the Friday night, because I love the atmosphere at the State. It's a great place to have a Q&A afterwards, to kind of have a party about it. There's a bar, to just be able to get on stage and talk about how it was made and all the stuff. That's fun to do there. Mary Max is going to be better for the film experience as far as sound and quality of the picture and all that stuff.
Right.
It's going to look and sound better at Mary Max, but they don't really have the. We can stand at the bottom of this. We ran film festivals there. I put up a microphone and we could talk to the audience and do stuff there. It just doesn't. It's a real pain in the ass to get a microphone to work in that room without a ton of feedback.
Then it just, in my opinion, looked better being on
it looks good being on stage.
Yeah,
They're talking to the audience and stuff. So we'll probably do a double night screening for people who can't make it to a Friday night show. You know?
Yeah, and that'll be good because it's kind of like more of a, like you said, you get the it's more of a meet and greet and Q&A with the State Theater, where Mary Max is more of a high quality, high quality
because
view
for
of the
me,
film.
the amount of effort I'm going to put in, I want people to experience it, like the high quality, like
Right.
so much money put into it and time and effort.
Right.
I want people to experience it and not because at the State when you watch it, the State. No offense to the State at all, everything they do there is
It's
like,
not really built to be a movie theater.
It's not anymore. Like the sound system there too is like it's built for music,
Right,
So it's like it's just watching a movie on that is always the levels always just kind of like end up a little all over the place.
I'm excited to do the whole microphone in the middle of the thing, so somebody's gonna like get up and walk down and ask you questions. Yeah, this question's for the director. That would be exciting for me, just sitting up on stage and holy shit, this looks like something out of a Kevin Smith stand-up.
We did for Idol Girl it was fun because we did the movie immediately followed with a behind-the-scenes documentary on how it was made. If you guys want a link to that, I'll send you a link to that too.
Yes, definitely.
But so we did that, and then so people got to watch the movie, and then immediately afterwards got to watch like behind the scenes on how it was made and a blooper reel. And then we took the stage, and so a lot of the questions were already answered in a lot of that, but then people also got to ask more questions because they got to see how things work. Like the scene, the driving stuff with when they're in the car driving, like the background is my TV. They're just in a parked car. We're shaking the car, and I have my TV on the other side of the window.
That explains a lot. I was gonna ask why it's kind of like I've seen how that can be done pretty cheaply, and I was like, that doesn't look the best, but that makes some sense.
Right, it translates okay. Like you get what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
You're also like weird.
I was like, man, that looks real blurry for how nice this camera is.
It was shot at 2 a.m. It was a late night. It was freezing outside where everybody's like in coats and everything. We're out there rocking this car. We're dragging my TV out into the cold, mounting it up. And
that is hilarious.
The biggest issue with that, from a technical standpoint, is that all the footage was shot on like a Samsung phone at like 60 frames a second, and then rendered out in like 24 frames a second, shot on another camera 24 frames a second. So like the background is also like really bright and like kind of choppy. It's the frame rates that don't match up. It's just like it kind of really throws it off. And then it was shot at night, and it's kind of a day scene. So then the lighting has to like. I've learned a lot about how to do that, and I think we're going to be doing that again here in the nearish future for another project. I'm excited to do that again. We're going to rear project it though this next time.
So I'm going to ask this because you said that you listed the movies that kind of inspired you to go into the field.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you? I know the answer. I know one answer, but what movies do you enjoy to watch? Okay. What are you into?
So if you were to ask me what my favorite movie is, and you would ask me what movie I've seen a million times, you know what I mean? Like, what's the movie I watch all the time? There's two answers because people will ask me what my favorite movie is, and sometimes I'm like trying to like have like some like highbrow, like, oh, I like this artsy whatever movie. But my favorite movie from a filmmaking standpoint that I do watch a lot, that I think is like a perfect film, is The Social Network. Which is like that movie.
Yeah,
that's my favorite movie.
I've seen that as a child.
That's my favorite movie when it comes to like, I don't know, just like writing and story and filmmaking and just like cinematography and everything. I think that movie is like a perfect movie. But what's my favorite movie? Like what's my movie I've seen a million times that I will watch over and over and over again is like Back to the Future. Yeah. So, Jack to the Future is like a movie I can quote it like the whole way through. The 1990s Ninja Turtle movie is another one. I watch the movie all the time.
I had a friend of mine I went to trade school with at LoganTech in Pennsylvania, and he went on to kind of work in the hot rod community and build hot rods with people. And I get a picture sent to me one day, and he's working with Gene Winfield in out, I want to say California, Arizona, somewhere out there. And the picture he sent me is of the futuristic police car sitting, rotting in the desert. It's completely trash. Like it's just garbage trash just sitting in the desert. And he's working for the guy that built them. Like he was just sitting there at the shop, and those are sitting out back, and he's restoring like 6-figure cars on the inside.
That's great.
And it was wild. But yeah, so that always stuck out to me because I love Back to the Future. That was the one movie I watched way more than anything else.
What I thought was funny, I just watched the Flash movie the other night. One of the things I thought was funny was in that alternate universe, Eric Stoltz was Marty McFly.
I have not seen the Flash.
You haven't seen the Flash movie yet?
No. Is it on? It's on
HBO now.
Is it on HBO now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not HBO now.
HBO Max. It's on.
No, Max. Just Max now.
Just Max. Sorry, it's just Max.
Not HBO Go, not HBO Now, not HBO Max. Just Max.
Just Max.
But
okay, I didn't realize it was on Max. So
I need to get their shit straight.
I don't think it's a very good movie, but I did laugh at it a few times.
Yeah, I did see a scene with Nicolas Cage. It was like a YouTube short where he's like watching it on a laptop, and he goes, "Oh, great! I'm in this movie. Too bad nobody will ever watch it." And he shuts the computer, and the short ends.
So I've heard people talk about why that's in there. Go on a side tangent. It's based on, at one point, I don't know what company or studio or who owned rights to Superman.
Well, this Tim Burton was making a Superman movie with Nicolas Cage as Superman, and they did test screenings. I mean, they got pictures of him in the suit.
It was Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith wrote it. He wasn't making it. Tim Burton was directing.
But with that, if I remember right, there was a producer that stated he didn't want him to. There's a bunch of guidlines that he had behind it. That's why it never got made.
There's a really great documentary by something Schnepp. I can't think of his first name. Anyway, but there's a really great documentary called "The Death of Superman." It's called "The Death of Superman: What Happened," and is that what's called? "The Death of Superman: What Happened"? But it's a documentary about the making of that movie. Kevin Smith is like throughout the whole thing talking about because he wrote a script, then he sits in front of a producer, and not only does he sit in front of a producer, he has to.
The Death of Superman Lives.
The Death of Superman Lives. What happens to this? Kevin Smith, this particular producer doesn't read scripts. You have to read the script to him. So Kevin Smith writes a script, comes around this guy's house, is reading the script page by page, and he's like, all right, so Superman lands in the Fortress of Solitude, outside the Fortress of Solitude. And he's like walking into it, and he goes, no. It's too boring. Can he get into a fight with a couple of polar bears before he goes in? And he's like, Superman fights polar bears. I just write this down. Okay. And then continues on with the story. This producer's giving him all these ideas. But yeah, he had all these ridiculous guidelines on Tim Burton and everything.
The most famous thing about that is who was the producer? Do you remember?
I can't think of his name. He's also in the documentary, acting, still talking those ideas are great ideas. But
yeah. So the best part of that documentary, the most famous thing that came out of that documentary, was that at the end of the movie, he wanted Superman to fight a giant mechanical spider.
Right.
Yes.
And
that's why there's a spider in the Flash like that.
So he demanded that there be a giant mechanical spider. And that's where Kevin Smith drew the line. And he's like, I will not Superman is not fighting a giant robotic spider at the end of this movie. He's just not doing it. So they scrapped the movie and they went away. That producer went on to make Wild Wild West with Will Smith and the villain that they fight at the end of the movie is a giant robotic spider. So is Kevin Smith's like in the documentary, Kevin Smith's like, so in the end of all of this, at least he got his giant fucking spider. Because that's what happened. He got his giant. He demanded that there be a spider in the movie, and Kevin Smith was like, "This is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. It's just not." So yeah, but he did get his spider because he put it in the Wild Wild West. So
What the fuck?
so whoever the producer was of Wild Wild West would be the guy that.
Well, I imagine there's multiple, so
yeah, I'm sure there's multiple.
Narrow that one down without going and watching the documentary.
Now, so I am not a huge. I don't mind the Back to the Future movies. I'm not a huge Back to the Future fan. I've seen them all. He's not seen them, but
I'm a fucking
Completely
disgrace.
yeah,
It's just part of me.
yeah. I'm a big. I mean, I enjoyed them all. I enjoyed the Back to the Future movies. So
Yeah, I as far as stuff that I like watch on a regular basis, I will frequently rewatch Breaking Bad. I just finished Better Call Saul.
I still haven't seen that.
I'm a huge comic book nerd, and like the superhero movie genre is a big thing of mine of stuff that I've watched over the years. But here recently, I could care less anymore. I feel like about any of it. And then Fast and the Furious apologist. I do enjoy the Fast and the Furious movies.
I haven't seen the new one.
I haven't seen the new one yet either, actually.
I haven't seen the new one. Yeah. So
If you were my fiance's opinion, who has watched all of them several times over and loves them, it's not worth it until you get the rest of them.
Lately I've been watching a lot of older stuff. I went on a Hitchcock thing recently. I watched a bunch of Hitchcock movies. I've been trying to watch more older movies lately to try and like cater my directing style a little bit differently. But most of the time, it's just I've been reading a lot lately. I haven't really been watching a lot of stuff recently.
do you find yourself when you're watching a movie like being like, "Oh, I would have done that different"?
I can't shut that off.
Yeah. Okay. So you do it. You do. You're like, you know what? That shot would have been a lot better if it would have done.
I don't necessarily criticize in that fashion too harshly anymore. I used to, but I don't necessarily criticize the film like I would do that better. But I will constantly pay attention to camera movement is like a thing that my brain won't shut off, like how that camera moves and pans or like long takes where it's not cutting, like a scene that just goes on for like minutes on end and there's no cut. That like will blow my mind sometimes. Like the opening scene to Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage. That fucking scene, dude. Just watch, like go back and watch that. I'm sure it's been, forever since you've seen that movie. Go back and watch the first 10 minutes of that movie and just watch it and realize that there's not a cut because it's fucking crazy. It's because I'm sure there's definitely got to be some hidden cuts in it, but he walks through an entire arena and talks to a bunch of people and does a bunch of stuff, goes down to the ring. There's a boxing match. The camera goes into the boxing match. There's a whole fight. The dude gets knocked out, but it was like now he owes these people money, so he's leaving the place. The camera's following him out. There's never a cut. We follow him into the scene, we watch a whole boxing match, we follow him out of the scene, and then there's no cut. The camera's just followed the whole time.
That's awesome.
There's a movie called What Lies Beneath.
Yeah. Okay.
That's Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah.
Speaking of back,
Is it Harrison Ford?
Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
It's a movie that my mom watched a lot. And I never really cared for it. I'm not a huge fan of like, I don't know, spousal.
It's almost like spousal horror.
Yeah, it's like
spousal.
He cheated on his wife, and then that woman died, and now she's haunting them or whatever. Yeah. But like the story itself, like I never really cared for, right, all that much. But my mom used to watch a lot. I watched that movie like last year. It's incredible. It is a masterpiece of a film. It blows my mind how good of a movie that is. The story itself, like just on paper, I'm like, meh. But the filmmaking in that is insane. Every scene is like a 3 to 5 minute scene that does not cut. There's never a cut. It's people talking and walking. They go from close up to medium to wide. All stuff. It's all in just one shot. Camera moves and blocking. Just people stepping into their close up, or the camera pushing into their close up and pulling out into a wide, moving around the characters as they talk. It's incredible. The whole thing, it changed how the way that I shot Macabre Mountain is very similar. I was just like, we don't have time to get coverage of everybody talking. Let's just, you guys talk, and then the camera will move into your guys' conversation. You guys will walk around this way. We'll follow you here to then reveal these characters here having a conversation. Like, let's just try to do as much of this in one and just blocking and staging as much as we can, because, like, it's so, and the editing process, infinitely easier to edit. It's just like, I got one shot.
Wasn't there I believe a war movie not too long ago that was released?
1917.
Yeah, the entire thing is one cut or one shot. Yeah.
It's a ton of hidden cuts. That movie's got like, I don't know how many cuts in the movie. It's very few in comparison to how movies are made. But they hide the cuts in it. But it is supposed to be. It's in the style of one continuous shot. Like Birdman. Did you ever watch that movie?
No, I don't think I did. I know the reference, but
that movie's all the same way. It's all one shot. Like, it's all in the style of one shot. Yeah, because they hide cuts. But when you do a movie where that's the style that you're shooting for is like all one shot, you still have shots that are 5 minutes without cut or something like that. There is only, I think, one feature length film in existence. I could be wrong. Somebody will probably tell me wrong, but that is truly one shot where the camera rolls for like 90 minutes and all this stuff happens. It's insane.
It's insane.
And if I remember correctly, I think that movie was shot like 3 times before they rehearsed like weeks on end rehearsing. And then when they called action, they had to do it 3 times before they got the movie. Wow. Insane.
We only made it 10 minutes in this time. Like, I can start over.
Yeah.
At least we didn't make it almost to the end like the last one.
So my 80s movies that and they're Back to the Future is in that group because it was 85. But in 85, 2 of my favorite movies came out in 85, and that is Clue and Fletch. Those
never seen Fletch.
Clue's great.
I just watched Clue for the first time just like a couple years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are.
That was great.
Those are 2 of my favorites, Clue and Fletch. And there's the Clue documentary is really good on Screenbox, and I've been listening to another podcast with the filmmaker of the documentary. And he is doing a podcast where they are watching a minute of Clue and then like 30 minutes dissecting that minute. and they do it every week. And it's 97 minutes long, so there's 97 podcasts, and they're only to like minute like 48 or something like that.
That's crazy.
But they watch, and they even did like the beginning, like the credits. So like the first like 3 minutes are like, okay, well, it's still a black screen.
I'll be honest, because that was your original concept for this podcast, was doing that.
It was
a similar thing for that with the Star Wars movies. I got like 5 episodes in before I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore.
Yeah.
I had to skip ahead to be like, where is it not fucking credits?
Yeah.
I enjoyed hearing them talk about it, but I was like, I want to hear something that's not just you talking about other stuff while talking about the credits of it.
The Clue podcast. Yeah. They and the funny thing is that like the and then those are legitimately like I Clue and Fletch, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the 2 of them, but it's funny because the 2 guys that are doing the Clue podcast, one's the filmmaker for the documentary. The other guy actually wrote a book about Back to the Future.
Oh, cool.
and then and has a weekly Back to the Future podcast. And then there's a guy that has a weekly Fletch podcast, and they had him on. But they all share a love of those like three movies: Back to the Future, Clue, and Fletch. And they all talk about how those '80s movies, and they even lump in sometimes like Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours, where like the soundtracks were cheesy and the action was kind of cheesy. But yeah, they go through all of that. But the documentary guy, when they're talking about different things like filming stuff, it's interesting because he talked to the filmmakers, yeah, of Clue, the ones that are still alive, and he talked to the casting director, and he's talked to some of the actors. Not all of them would talk to him, but they go through how they filmed like Clue and what was improvised and what wasn't. And then I didn't realize this because it was 1985. I wasn't going to see Clue at the theaters, but because I was only 7. But Clue, when they released the movie, it didn't do very well in the theaters, obviously, and they blamed it a lot on. If you watch it now, you get all the endings.
Right. But at the time, they had
At-
alternate endings for each.
At the time, depending on what movie you went to, you only got to see one ending. So like
I only know it seeing the multiple endings.
yeah, so like you could literally go to a theater and your friend could go to a different theater and one of you might have saw the ending where Miss White is like flames, flames, but the other person didn't see that because that ending didn't happen. That ending was the Scarlet ending where she killed everybody. So they didn't see the improvised thing with Miss White saying flames or Miss Peacock's a woman or like because they were all different endings and they didn't put them all together until they released it on home video. And then everybody went out to go get it because they didn't realize that that's why it was so much more successful once they released it out on home video.
Brilliant way of doing it.
Yeah, because they put all 4 endings or all 3 endings. There was actually a 4th ending shot too, but they didn't. They never released that.
Did they advertise that there'd be different endings everywhere?
But they did once. They did for the home video, but they did not.
They didn't tell anybody.
They didn't tell anybody before they went to the theater.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's something you couldn't do, but I feel like the movie would have done way better nowadays.
It makes
Yeah.
sense though for
They
Clue.
should have always.
exactly.
With Clue, they should have just released all the endings. Like I would have done all the
But
endings.
Brad makes an excellent point with it being based off the board game.
Yeah.
Every time you play, it changes.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you go to a different theater, every time you watch it, it changes.
Yeah.
So that's something that doesn't exist anymore when you think about.
Located at 430 East Broadway in beautiful downtown Logansport, on the bonus level, the second floor of Bonus Pints is the Lantern. The Lantern is a glowing light in a small town. They're a shop filled with art, clothing, books, and all your current Halloween needs. They are currently carrying cat skull candles, black cat drinking glasses, Halloween themed dresses and shirts, and some 3D horror decor that will scratch your Halloween itch. Check out their Facebook page for when they are open and what new items they are stocking daily.
Movies like succeeding after theaters, they don't anymore because there's no home video, there's no DVD sales. They don't make that money. Like if a movie didn't quite make its budget back, in the theater, it doesn't make it back. The royalties you get off streaming are pennies in comparison to what you got off DVD sales. Where am I? Matt Damon. Matt Damon. Matt Damon was on Hot Ones recently, and he was talking about that, like that idea of there's this mid-budget range film that doesn't exist anymore, like the Forrest Gumps and the $20 million movie doesn't really exist. It exists in certain genres, like in horror And in action, like John Wick being maybe John Wick was the first movie was $28 million. I think they made a movie for.
Yeah, but now the last one was
but still like that 20 to even like $100 million. Like that gap doesn't really exist. It exists in Netflix original stuff and like streaming service original movies. Like those movies kind of exist there, but those movies used to be the sweet spot that they made everything in, because that movie would make a good chunk of its money in theaters, and it would make a heck of a lot more money over VHS and DVD sales over the years.
Right.
It would build up a following. Like Forrest Gump did great, but then it did incredible when it went to VHS. It's just, and that physical media doesn't exist anymore for a movie to make its money back. So studios are like, all or nothing. We're going to put our chips into these big giant blockbuster things, but they're not making their money back on them anymore. And they're hurting because of streaming services aren't as lucrative as a thing. That's why Max is a great example of like, they're consolidating all these streaming services into one over here with Max, because they're like, oh, we had Discovery Plus and we had AMC and we had HBO and we had all this stuff. And now we're like, we're just push all this stuff together under one umbrella and charge a little bit more for it.
And then it's still kind of shitty, because I have Discovery Plus, and when they did that whole HBO thing or the Max and Discovery Plus, we didn't get everything from Discovery Plus, so I still have to keep my Discovery Plus subscription.
AMC's only like a weird like trial thing they're doing right now too, where they only have a handful of their shows and it says limited time only on it. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so and they don't get. I mean, they don't pay as much.
That's why the strike is happening right now.
Right.
Because when an actor was in a movie and then that movie's DVD sold, they made money off of that forever. They made royalties off that.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
And then now with the actors, aren't they also striking? Because wasn't there a whole thing where they were talking about trying to AI every extra, basically?
They are. It's something they've been doing for a while now.
I was just saying, I heard that as a thing that like they were talking about doing, not that it has.
They're not talking. I mean, they're talking about doing it more, but they have already started implementing basically purchasing someone's likeness. So they've already been.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
They've been
Bruce
doing
Willis.
That. Yes, they've been doing that stuff for a little while now, and they're seeing like, hey, this is going in a direction that we don't like. Like you guys, like, because once you purchased it, that means you no longer get a job. There's a great documentary on HBO that just came out called Telemarketers. Have you guys watched that?
No, I have not.
I saw it on the list, but I haven't watched
3 episodes. Absolutely fantastic.
Let me add that to
it. But just a little side note. In that, one of the documentary is it's specifically about 2 telemarketers that worked for a company in the early 2000s that was like super shady, and it sheds a whole light on what that industry looks like and who's in charge of it and how that money is distributed and who's really in charge of it. And it's mind-blowing. It's awesome. I love it. But there's a weird aspect that ties into what we're talking about, which is that nowadays those same companies that are doing those telemarketing are now using robot voices, but the voices that you hear are the guys that have been working for them for years. They just recorded all their voices, had to sit into a booth and record all the lines and all the stuff, and then fired those guys, and then are using their voices and don't have to pay them anymore to do all these telemarketing shit. And this is like something that's in the tail end of the documentary. It's just like, and they're doing this. And like some of those guys are dead and they're still like, hey, this is, John calling from whatever company. And like that guy's been dead for 3 years and it's still his voice calling these people.
Oh my God. Wow.
Seeing, obviously it's so new in my eyes in the acting thing. I didn't even think of it in that aspect of someone like, because Bruce Willis did it because he has he's got dementia, some kind of
I'm not sure what condition he's got, but
but I would never thought about the fact that once he passed, I mean, obviously we have the movies, but then that they'll continue to make new ones with his ass.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cameos in the end of the Flash. Like, I don't know if you've seen this stuff, but there's a lot of cameos and there's some dead actors that they bring back for the end of that, and it's a little distasteful. And it's just like, it's like slightly like
Oh yeah, because Reeves.
yeah,
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, they bring back George Reeves and Christopher Reeves, and George Reeves, I'm pretty sure, was a suicide when he
Yes.
passed away. And
Yes.
like I think his was a suicide, and a lot of it was due to the productions of Superman and what it did to his life and all this stuff. There was a lot of like very directly related to that character. They're like, let's bring him back for this movie.
But that I don't
Wow.
want.
For one shot
Yeah.
of a movie.
Wow.
But so it's just like, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of definitely gray area in bringing dead actors back.
I was just saying,
Yeah.
now I have a question like with, what is it, Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. They got the entire estate's permission. To me, I feel like that's a good thing. As someone who works with movies and does all that thing, I'd like to hear your opinion.
Well, my opinion on that is I love that character a lot. I don't know if you guys have ever read the Tarkin book, but it's so.
I've only heard snippets
But-
by watching YouTube
But Tarkin
videos.
is such an amazing character, and my honest opinions of them from like a moral standpoint, I found it to be okay because of the character and the continuity of the story they were telling. So the character, it made sense for the character to be there.
Yeah.
But I would have just cast Ben Mendelsohn as Tarkin and just would have done it that way. Because I think Ben Mendelsohn's an incredible actor, and they should just been like, this guy's Tarkin, instead of having him be the guy who works and does everything that Tarkin would have done anyway.
That makes
Make him
sense.
Tarkin. Because I don't really like Rogue One. But
Oh, come on. I love Rogue One.
no, I don't really care for Rogue One.
Person I've met.
I know.
Yeah, I loved Rogue.
I said that yesterday to somebody too. They're like, what? But
Him and Newt.
I think that Rogue One is one of the best looking Star Wars movies. I think that the action in it's incredible. I think that the droids are awesome. Donnie Yen is awesome, but I don't care at all about anybody. I think that the story that's told is very weak, and it's an amazing spectacle of a film. And that final moment with Darth Vader just murdering everyone is awesome. That's like watching a World War II movie, and then some Nazi soldier just comes in and kills a ton of Americans at the end of it, and you're like, yeah. I don't understand. Like in the context of the story, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to have it, but it's incredible. I love it.
I mean, well, were you saying the context of the story? Oh, wait, you're saying with that scene in particular.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. I was
here's
thinking of the movie.
the story of Rogue One, and like the plans of the Death Star and all stuff. And then at the very end, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then the villain comes in and murders everyone, and you're like, why did we end with like on such a like if you had no context to what that was?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It took my brain a second. I see what you're saying.
I remember when that movie comes out, and I think I can't even remember where I worked at the time. But I came into work. I came into work, and I was like, somebody said, "Did you go see Rogue One this weekend?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I thought it was really good." And they were like, I just can't get past it. And I said, "You can't get past it?" "No, I love Star Wars, but I just can't get past that they killed everybody at the end. Everybody died." And I said, "You've seen the other Star Wars movies?" And yeah. Have you seen the very first one that ever came out? A New Hope, Episode 4. Yeah. Were any of the people in Rogue One in Episode 4? Well, no. And I said, I know, because they all had to die. And she's like, I think it was a girl, and she was just like, well, I mean, and I was like, no, like literally they had to die. It wasn't like they were on a different like spectrum of the universe. It wasn't, they weren't on a different plane. Like they were literally right there. And in episode 4, they're like, a lot of people died to bring these plans to the rebellion.
Well, no, that line wasn't in that. That line was in, that was for the second Death Star. Many Bothans died to bring information.
Okay.
That was a different.
That was a different one?
Yeah, that was.
Okay, I thought it was that one.
No, because I originally went on that same tangent when the movie came out, and then I did my research and felt like
I only have one question though, because I know they've done so many edits and special editions and re-editions. Was it at one point?
no.
Well, my biggest annoyance is that Rogue One ends, and then A New Hope is like picks up right there.
Yeah.
So Darth Vader murders all these people. They like hand off the baton to the next ship or whatever. The door shuts. He sees them leave. He boards their ship in A New Hope. And she's like, "You're on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan." He's like, "Just saying." Yep. Just thought.
I never thought of it in that context.
One thing I don't know if a lot of people noticed the Blue Squadron does. Like all the X-wings are Blue Squadron. There's no Blue Squadron in A New Hope.
Yeah, it's a red.
Yeah, and then Gold Squadron, right?
Yeah,
and then Green's the bombers, yada yada. But yeah, there's no Blue Squadron. And then when they shot A New Hope, there was a Blue Squadron originally. So a lot of that old footage they used is
They reversed
but so you can watch the movie, and if you pay attention to the X-Wings colors, you'll notice it.
There's a book that came out alongside Rogue One, Catalyst. I don't know if you read
I
that.
didn't read that. No.
I saw where that came out, but I didn't read it.
Catalyst takes place before Rogue One, and it's Jyn Erso's story. That the story in Catalyst is her arc. Like, it's who she becomes. It's her becoming this rep. That story is a story. Rogue One is like she's already who she is, and she's still that same person at the end of it. There's no like.
That's the only thing I wish we could have saw.
Yeah, like Saw Gerrera, his character's awesome. There's a lot of really cool shit in that movie. I just think that the story that's told is kind of meh. But
I guess I've always looked
my
at
favorite of all of the new Star Wars movies is The Last Jedi, and I know that people hate that movie. So
I hate that movie.
So me and my brother-in-law have had arguments after arguments about it, and I've come to this point, and he still agrees with this part. One of them had to be the worst. We both agree that it is the worst, but he thinks it's not as bad as everyone says. And the only thing that I can't get past is the whole casino scene is, in my opinion, is pointless.
It is.
It's no. So that's the only thing it does is world building.
Yeah.
If you
Exactly.
if you were to take that completely out of the story, it does not matter.
Yeah, but then we don't get it.
Here's the interesting.
Benicio.
Well, yeah.
He's just great.
So I was just talking this week to I'll give him a shout out. Hopefully he's listening. Aaron Click downstairs at the record farm. And he said the same thing. My favorite out of the new three is The Last Jedi. And I'm like, how? It's not even
the actors
for me.
Even the actors.
It's not even
It's
not even for me. I like that is my least favorite of the new three. I would say it's probably
my least favorite out of all of them.
It's not below a Phantom Menace.
It is my
I'm a child. So you can fight me on that one.
It's my third favorite in the bunch.
Yeah, it's not even close to that for me.
It's like way up there because
I'd rather
it does something. It does new things with the Force, and it takes it's the reason why I could agree with you. The casino stuff is whatever, and the animal rights aspect of that whole thing is like it's whatever. Like that side story isn't.
It just took up too much time for me.
It isn't very strong, but everything with Kylo and Rey is incredible throughout the entire thing.
We will agree with that.
Everything with her and Luke training and all of that, like everything, all those things are incredible.
My biggest gripe with the entire movie is the fact that they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we know that you went through this whole entire Skywalker saga, but everybody has the Force.
But everybody
Wait,
does
hold
have
on.
the Force.
Yeah, hold on. That's something we didn't bring up in the Star Wars
Everybody
episode.
does have
Hey,
the Force.
hey.
You don't have to be a Skywalker.
And I'm not trying to spoil it.
Beans go.
I was about to say I'm not trying to spoil anything for Ahsoka, but there
Yeah,
are
no,
there's
I know.
Brett or Tony still hasn't watched Ahsoka.
It's fine. I know that she's a Jedi. I mean, I know that. Like,
Well, what I was getting at is I don't want to I just don't want to spoil any specific.
Yeah,
aspects.
it's not a sequel of Jedi.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, technically, everyone's force sensitive. My thing that upset me with Dad's aspect of that is, yes, everyone's force sensitive, but Ray picked up on everything so easily. Just being introduced to it in the 7th movie, or her first movie,
Right.
she's able to force mind.
For it, though. She was literally created for it.
Well, okay, yes,
Yeah, but she was only because they retconned it all and was like,
exactly. Like
people are mad because everybody has the Force, so no show Palpatine.
what I'm arguing is that she was out of the bat as soon as she found out about the Force. Essentially, she is so strong in it. Which to me, seeing everything in Star Wars previous, you have to train in the Force unless you're someone like Anakin, you're someone like Palpatine. You have.
I still think
Natural talent.
you don't.
All things.
I know there is,
Yeah,
but
you don't need to be a Skywalker.
no, I'm not saying directly those. I'm saying there are specific ones, and unless they would have gave us an actual explanation of how she became or how her bloodline is so powerful in the Force when she is supposedly comes from a nobody.
No, my problem was, and it never had to do with Skywalker. My problem is that I had believed in my own mind and probably cooped it up myself
That's what everybody did. That's the problem.
that yeah,
True.
right, that you had like there were chosen ones that had mini chlorians that and those that were born with that special ability
Have you ever seen?
were Jedi. And like it didn't matter what race or species you were or whatever, but it was those were the
So you're getting into the complicated point in the prequels where they started explaining midichlorians.
so then Last Jedi comes out and they're like, everybody's got it. And I'm just like, wait a minute, hold on. So nobody's special then. Okay. Then all got it.
Nobody's special. Do you live on Earth?
Yeah.
Nobody's special.
Yeah.
Have you seen No Country for Old Men?
No.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You haven't seen No Country for Old Men? You know how you don't see the shootout?
Yeah.
And how everybody just fucking dies?
Yeah.
And like you don't really know what happened. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, well, I guess fuck it, whatever. I'm retiring.
It's like you know what happens though.
Yeah.
Like you assemble it.
But the whole movie you're building up to like this big shootout,
Yeah.
and then you don't get to see it because he gets there after.
Yeah.
You don't get to see it.
I'd have to
But it's
see
incredible, right?
I mean, it's like I think you're just so wrapped up. That movie, you're just so wrapped up in everything that happens.
I'd have to see the movie to understand
forget
this.
that you were waiting for it. So when
Right.
it gets there, and you're like, "Oh my god, it's done." You think about it the next day, like,
So that's where I'm at with the Star Wars thing.
I like it because I really love Ryan Johnson a lot. Like I love every movie he's made, and I
enjoy Knives Out and Glass Onion.
To my knowledge, I think The Last Jedi's. Granted, I'm bad at any actor, director, or anybody's names besides probably Christopher Nolan's, but I think that's the only Ryan Johnson movie I've seen.
Knives Out was fantastic.
Knives Out's great.
Yeah.
Glass Onion's awesome. Have you seen Looper?
yeah,
Nope.
Looper's so good. Brick. Have you seen Brick?
Mm.
Brick's his first movie, so
Remind you of Brick?
Brick's Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He's like in high school and his girlfriend dies, and she's murdered, and he's like a neo-noir movie where he's like trying to investigate a murder. A super awesome movie. I didn't see it.
I have seen it.
I love the dialogue of the movie. It's really weird. They talk really. The slang is very odd. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
And then the only other movie he made is called it's called The Brothers Bloom with
The Brothers Bloom
The Brothers Bloom
with Matt Damon and Heath Ledger.
no That's going to be a weird team up. This is an alternate universe here, but it's Brothers Bloom with who's the Hulk currently?
Mark Ruffalo.
It's Mark Ruffalo.
I think you were thinking of the Brothers Grimm.
Yeah, Brothers Grimm.
Oh, okay.
Adrian Brody.
Yeah,
Adrian Brody, Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo, Rachel Weisz, Rinko
So what am I
Kikuchi.
thinking of?
Brothers Grimm.
Okay, it is Brothers Grimm. Okay.
Yeah,
I apologize if I butchered those
Brothers
names.
Bloom, awesome movie. But he's a really, really great writer. But I really like Last Jedi mostly because it does very new, interesting things with the Force. And it's really good. Like I like all the I like all things. I like Broom Boy. That's funny.
Yeah, boy, yeah.
Bird Boy was cool. I enjoyed that.
I did not enjoy Broom Boy. I didn't. I just didn't. But yeah. So anyway,
Wait till you
that's
see
right.
what he does with that broom.
I know, right? Yeah.
Ray's
Yeah,
about to teach him.
and I caught the whole reference to the Last Jedi in Ahsoka this week, and now
I apparently
Well,
did.
is
What
there-
are you talking about?
the Ahsoka, like when she's talking to Sabine.
Oh, the Force moves through everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody and everything. You just
I mean, every
dig deep.
that-
and
every
find it.
every Jedi.
I mean, but that's
It's
also been
sim-
stated basically in other movies without saying those exact
Right.
words. I mean,
Yeah,
Qui-Gon
but-
Jinn basically says it when he explains midichlorians. Every living organism
Yeah.
has midichlorians. It just depends on how many midichlorians you have, and that's I know people have their own arguments with midichlorians, but
Well, I mean,
It's just blood.
you know,
dirty crap.
basically
Anakin's,
he's made of midichlorians. Basically,
he's basically made by Palpatine anyway.
he is. It's
Yeah.
not basically. It is.
Right. Well, I mean, it's never 100%, but he's basically the most evil head turn nods of telling you that you are.
Yeah, right.
There's so many head turns in that scene where
Since
he's like talking about like,
Disney deleted Legends, it's not. I mean, it is official, but it's not fully written out there.
Yeah.
Which that's why I love Dave Filoni and John Favreau because they just pull things from Legends. They're like, nope, we're making it canon again.
Jedi healing powers just to make Anakin look further like a dickhead. Because he joined the dark side to get him, and it's like, no, that's a Jedi thing. It's like you went the wrong way to heal people, bro.
the healing power thing is annoying, but I do love that week on fucking God damn it, what's the show? Mandalorian. On the Mandalorian, you had Grogu heal the creature thing, right? Was that what it was? Grogu does it in that week's episode, and then the final or the Rise of Skywalker comes out, and then Rey heals. And in the theater, I went, "Oh, good thing they showed that in Mandalorian."
Bitch had to come here and do this shit too. It was special a moment ago.
If they wouldn't have had Grogu do it first, because you had a cute little baby, you get to it. Like,
Yeah.
oh wow, it's so cool.
Oh,
And she
to
doesn't
me,
go, well, we already accepted it, so that's
Yeah.
fine.
In my head, when either one of them did it, my brain just goes to the Jedi being the good side healers. I'd expect them to have a way of healing shit and
Hey, Anakin was not allowed to save
his mom.
not his mom, but
Well,
mom maybe, but yeah, his wife.
Palpatine or fucking Padme.
Yeah.
That's all I could say was Palpatine, man.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that it wasn't allowed to. It was that
Well, he was cut up.
That was the reason she died. She died of a heart.
Well, I was gonna say she died during birth, which, in my understanding, during watching Revenge of the Sith, isn't that while he's basically being reconstructed because she's giving birth after the fight,
Yeah.
But she just physically gave up because there was nothing technically wrong with it.
and that's when he screams
Bunch
in
of
the
dicks,
moment
like,
that she
Don't go
dies.
save your friends. He didn't go save his. Neither one of them did. But Luke didn't save his. Or Luke went and saved. Or Luke did go and save his friends, and he's. He didn't get
And
value for it. And the end of
standing there not using the force while she's dying. Like they can heal. So why didn't nobody heal any of those?
I mean, you do have an avid point there. You have a valid point there.
Because they're a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
that is
they're a bunch of dicks.
they are a bunch of dicks.
A bunch of dicks.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The new.
they're a bunch of self-righteous
I'm
assholes.
still trying to figure out who the two. I don't know that they're really cis.
They're not Sith, so
Did you not watch
the
the animated series?
male
No, I didn't.
the male is a
What?
the male used to be a Jedi, and you can tell that because of the fact that the female. I'm bad with their names, so I apologize.
Who knows who he is? Who
Yes.
the robot knew
Yeah.
who he was.
Did I miss that line?
Yeah, he said this lightsaber was constructed.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, I saw that.
Only one other person and one other Padawan.
But that was in the third episode, so I'm thinking back to
No, that wasn't third episode. That was
It
second.
was second.
Was it the second? I'm real bad about
Yeah, it
keeping
was the
things in
second.
line.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he used to be a Jedi. I don't think he ever fully became a Sith because he never makes like when they talk in the first episode. I can't remember I'm bad remembering exact dialogue, but I know when they bring up Jedi and all of that stuff, he blatantly states, "I'm not a Jedi."
No Jedi. He uses the same line as so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are theorizing that he's a gray Jedi. They are gray Jedi. I wouldn't put him as gray Jedi like in the animated series
No,
where
they're bad guys that just aren't
they're mercenaries.
Yeah.
their own thing.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, they're kind of their own thing. I don't think they're Sith.
Now I have a question for you since he's walked away real quickly. Murak. Well, both of you guys. The third guy.
I have a very negative opinion about.
So, all right. I just want.
There's only supposed to be two.
No, because everybody on the
That's
internet
always
is
been broken, so don't bring that up.
everybody on the internet is begging that it's Galen Merrick, Star Killer.
No.
I am
He is
freaking tired. People
the only. Yes, okay, but that same guy voices so many other people.
But everybody is just clamoring.
Do you know what the other people are? You know what the other thing people are clamoring that it is?
Ezra,
Yeah.
they're saying,
How was Ezra when he blasted off with Thrawn?
look at Ezra's posture when he's in that.
I don't care how.
No, listen to me. He's standing straight up. He's got a thicker build. The Marok dude's a wiry, hunched over weird. It's not the same fucking body. Yeah, it's not the same body.
Didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. But that's it. It's not the same thing. Everybody wants it to be something completely.
He needs to be
retarded.
his own character.
And then they're going to complain about it later. They're going to.
I love the Force Unleashed. I love Star Killer. I love all of that. But trying to shove him into what is now, like what is going on and how they have everything established, you would be forcing it so hard it would break fucking everything.
Yeah.
So that can't be the way it is. And now I will hold the discussion since he hasn't seen any of Ahsoka.
Hopefully, you didn't hear us yelling down the hall.
That is true. I did get pretty loud. I do that pretty often.
What do you think? I'm gonna ask this. What does everybody think about the 97 X-Men 97 cartoon coming back?
When does it drop out?
Is it?
It's sometime soon.
Yeah, it's soon.
I think it's the next Marvel.
Yeah.
I
think so.
I just want to see Wolverine punch fucking Scott again.
I'm curious to where it's going to pick up. If it's going to pick up, because Xavier died at the end of
The original
the
run,
original
right?
run.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to if it's going to
Look
pick
up
up.
X-Men 97.
I'm curious if it's going to pick up there, because that last season of the show, if I remember correctly, is like a different producer and studio that made it. And so some of the decisions that were made during that, there was like some back and forth on whether or not this show was going to like retcon all of that and just pick up where the kind of the season before that ended.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you didn't give me exactly besides look up X-Men 97, which I'll be our Jamie this podcast. So the first thing I looked at was when is it is it still coming out? And the only thing we have is sometime in early 2024.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So
Wow.
they pushed it all the way.
Was
back
there
to
something you
24?
wanted me to specifically to look up?
No, I thought the release date was soon. I thought it was like in the next month or two.
Like, what year is it?
It's like they're releasing all the toys.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, see, and that's the thing with Dune right now too. Like they pushed Dune back, but all of the marketing material says still that it comes out November 3rd or whatever.
oh, really?
And
Okay.
like all of like the they've really been releasing all these trailers because the thing with with a movie when you look at the production budget of a film when it when you look at that you actually double that amount most of the time because whatever they spend to make the movie they spend the same amount to market that movie.
I've heard that.
So you can almost always just double it because they are required, I think, to release the budget for the film, but they're not required to release the marketing budget for the film. So assumption is you just double the budget because the bigger the movie, the more money they can spend on marketing.
Right. Is that why George Lucas was such a genius for selling marketing, like licensing rights and or holding on to them himself?
Yeah.
Holding on to
And
them.
the toys and all
Yes.
that fun shit.
Yes, and that is because of him. They created an entire different model. I mean, we were talking earlier about I think before the podcast about RoboCop, being like kind of marketed towards kids because all the toys and stuff. That's because of Star Wars. I mean, every single movie that came out had a toy line that dropped with it and T-shirts and comic
Yeah,
books.
and that's all because of George Lucas and Star Wars.
Because you just never know. If this movie takes off, the merchandise is what's going to make all the money.
Right.
So take you back to your question about X-Men 97 with Professor X dying at the end. With what I am looking up here in the series final episode, Xavier was taken from Earth by Lilandra, bidding farewell to his X-Men. However, it wasn't his love for Lilandra that led to his departure, but rather a devastating attack, the consequences of which may reshape the entirety of the X-Men's world in the revived series.
So he didn't die.
He just got taken away from Earth. I've not seen the original series. I don't know anything.
I'm rewatching it right now.
I barely know.
Are you watching it?
Yeah.
My only knowledge with X-Men, besides what little I'm reading with the comics now, is all of the Fox universe, which I know is hit and miss on how people
It's a
take it.
continuity nightmare.
Yes, exactly.
Good old Fox.
Y'all love Deadpool in it.
Yeah.
I love
without a mouth.
I love X-Men a lot. And the Fox X-Men movies have always been a love-hate relationship with me. Like I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think he's great. But I also think that he's not that character. like he's not the Wolverine from the comic books. Like he's not he doesn't really embody
The first few, definitely not.
Yeah.
So as
more so later on for sure.
It's an absolute.
Oh, Logan's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible too. It's incredible, like from a comic book standpoint, but also just from the world they created and the characters they created. Like, I mean, there's an amazing send off for the character, even though he's coming back in Deadpool. And
but if you hear of how they explain it, Logan takes place in an alternate universe, and therefore,
right. But I love that he's coming back in Deadpool, and I love that Deadpool is part of the MCU. Like,
I'm so excited.
I don't really like. I have this, I don't know. I'm definitely feeling like a superhero fatigue, which is crazy because I'm just like a giant comic book fan. I owned a comic book store for a while. I've been reading comics my whole life. I love these characters, and it's not that I'm having comic book movie fatigue so much as it is I'm sick of watching shitty comic book movies.
That's what I was about to ask you. Is it the shitty movies or is it the fatigue of the superheroes?
I think the movies shows. Secret Invasion was just a letdown. I love that comic book run so much.
I've not read the comic book run, and looking at when I watched the TV show, every week I was excited for the next episode, but towards the end I got to a point where I was like,
I just need to finish it.
yeah, this needs to end, and I just need this. I just need to see the end to see what's going on, because it got to a point where it's just shitty.
It wasn't shitty. It just didn't serve a purpose.
It didn't serve a purpose. And
To me, that equals shitty.
the final episode is so stupid.
Yeah.
It's so
To me, if it doesn't serve a purpose, then it's just overall
like
fucking
you
shitty.
had two characters that had like really big giant arc movements in their conversation, only to find out that that's not the character, it's this other character. So the whole conversation we had doesn't mean anything.
Right. Right.
And then you created just a really stupid fight in it that cost a lot of money, and that's definitely, they were like holding their budget for that.
I think that fight was not really. I enjoyed seeing Gaia get the powers. I don't think it's really needed because I don't know how we're going to go from there.
I just think it's dumb to just. I know that they're shapeshifters, so they're like shapeshifting into whatever ability they're using. But like the Drax arm is like, what is it?
That was
What is
That's the part that didn't make sense. To like, I get that they're shapeshifters and they're getting DNA from other beings.
In Drax's arm.
That's my thing. Why wouldn't it just take the scroll arm and jack it up?
More like full transformations. Like we could have watched Drax duke it out with the Hulk. You know, we could have watched full
Or do that, yeah.
But also like why not pick some of the villains on the battlefield and let them just fuck good guys? Why ain't she rocking Thanos' arm?
Well, at one point he does use the Doctor Strange-esque villain. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
Yeah,
but he does have. But his hand turns into it, and he has the rings on the hand. I'm like, where the rings come from? When you just
they
generate
change
rings
into their clothes. They do simulate clothing.
But it's
so is that to say that every Skrull's naked and they make up their own clothes?
Yes, exactly.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like, in the Sony universe where Electro can go into the power grid but keep his clothing.
But with Gaia, it's like, where do you go from there? Now you have a being on this.
She's way more powerful than everything else.
Here's the thing where I admit that everybody will make that.
Unless Galactus is going to eat her.
Powerful ever, but she's not. Because she's not experienced with any of those, and it takes so much concentration to focus that she couldn't maintain that for an actual battle with any one of those individual heroes.
But like,
she'd get by almost all.
How do you get the abilities of Captain Marvel? When Captain Marvel got her abilities from,
because it genetically altered her. It was the blood. She technically had.
I was going to say it's the same concept with the whole She-Hulk and Bruce Banner. It's part of their genetics.
That would make sense. This is like
that alters her genetics, therefore making it part of her DNA.
But they're also related. They're cousins.
Well, I'm saying
their DNA reacted the same with
right, but I'm saying
even in the end of that show, they try to do the whole.
Basically, for her to have Captain Marvel's powers, she would have to be exposed to the same energy, not just take DNA.
Yeah. But
if the altered DNA is what's causing the actual powers, and the DNA got altered by what she was exposed to, then wouldn't the DNA cause powers?
Yeah, probably.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I just think that kind of like it could be either one of those things. It's whoever wrote it gets to decide.
You are. Yeah. I mean,
she's just gonna be nerfed. Like in the next whatever thing she pops up in, she's just going to be nerfed.
I was just saying I think that's my overall issue with Marvel that I keep seeing.
Scarlet Witch will walk her, Doctor Strange will walk her, Pure Hulk would. We're about to get nasty Hulk. Like they gave soft, easygoing Hulk. Everybody knows what the next step is. Fucking Planet Hulk. Like it's about to get really fucking weird with them.
Yeah.
Have you looked into because they're about to do Red Hulk and everything with Harrison Ford,
Thunderbolts,
which I don't
upset about that. No, I love Harrison Ford, but he's not going to last long enough.
That's my thing.
Anywhere in the fucking movie.
No, I think he's probably going to die in that movie.
But like what?
But that makes it just
this villain scene that is good and kill him.
Because that's what Marvel does. It's the complaint that my brother-in-law has and that I also have. They bring in all of these villains and then kill them off in the same movie, except for basically Thanos. and Scarlet Witch, if you want to look at her as going from hero to villain.
Kang,
And
Loki.
Kang.
I would
and
never
Loki.
Well, that's 'cause they're-
which is a villain.
Yeah.
She's battling with some.
I also think she's dead, for the record.
No, I don't think she's dead. Well, we also do know we're getting a Scarlet Witch movie, unless it's a prequel like they did with Black Widow.
Like, people are so mad, like, oh, they did her wrong. And I'm like, she died in a really wide shot with a building falling. Like,
The only thing thing I say is you can see,
zipping it down. But
and you can see another flash of red after it's being ripped down in the scene, and then also when in a post interview with Kevin Feige, he kind of beat it around the bush that she may be dead, she may be not, and he refused to confirm anything. So not that we
that means
know.
nobody signed a contract yet. And he's like, well, she has an out right now. She wants to not come back. She can't, we're trying to
Exactly.
figure out the money situation.
I think she's gonna come. I think she's gonna come back. Therefore, she's not dead.
Scarlet Witch is like the most powerful
Have you read House of M?
in everything. No, I haven't.
Read House of M sometime. That's good. That's,
That's,
a, that's a good.
that's one of the series I have read. It's a very good series.
You've told me a lot about
that's
it.
that's a good Scarlet Witch story, but that's a great Wolverine story.
Because
I
Wolverine's
think I have some of the issues of House of M,
Yeah.
but I haven't read.
because Wolverine's the main character basically. Because he's the one that has to get through it all, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's a world in which
Wasn't there a TV show kind of, or one of the Spider-Mans went through the House of M?
well, Spider-Man's also
Yeah, I know that.
character
I'm reminiscing. Sorry.
she basically creates a world. It was like a fabricated world where everybody gets everything they've ever wanted. So like Spider-Man's kind of a jock and like still with Gwen Stacy, like she never died.
Yeah.
But Wolverine gets all of his memories back. So he remembers the world before she did it. So he's the only one that knows that this isn't real.
That's cool.
And he has to go and talk to Peter Parker and convince Peter Parker that he's not a jock, that he's this nerdy, scrawny kid, and his girlfriend that he loves died. And for him to believe it, convince him and believe it, and to join him in this fight. And it's like really tragic to like be like, hey, I know you love your life right now, but
Basically,
this is not your life.
The House M's what they must have built WandaVision off of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, kind of. It was definitely inspired by that, but also WandaVision itself was a comic book series.
Okay.
That is that same kind of like same format of like
Well, I know
the
there's
old TV show.
WandaVision.
It's it's kind of that because that came out like 2015 or 2016, something like that.
That's why I'm excited. The only thing I'm excited for with Miss Marvel is finding out more about Monica Rambeau.
No. Yeah.
Because, we got introduced to her, and since then she's
Well,
not been dropped,
by
yeah.
what? Because then she doesn't she have a couple different names?
She's got a couple of different superhero names.
Like,
Yeah, I don't know what direction. It comes out in November. I think it comes out in November. And I'm not sure what direction they're going to go with that.
I'm
But
just ready for some Loki.
I am too.
Logan
That's the
comes out
next
in what,
TV show. October.
What a wonderful actor Tom Hiddleston is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston's great, man, and I know all that stuff's going on right now with the guy who plays Kang.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Jonathan Majors.
But he's an incredible actor.
Well, and it's like
October 6th. Loki.
It's. I think they got him out a little too quick and early too. Just as the villain, like Kang kind of controls a lot of other villains.
Do you want to know my theory?
What's that?
My theory is that Kang is not going to be the big major villain of this big phase or whatever, this big arc. I don't think he's going to be the major villain.
Though one of the last, so far that they've revealed, one of the last movies of the big arc is going to be Kang Dynasty.
I don't think that he's going to be but that's the movie right before Secret Wars.
Oh,
Secret
yeah, you're
Wars
right.
is the last
Yeah, you're right.
Have you read the 2015 Secret Wars?
No.
Okay.
I've heard people talk about it.
Because the movie is supposed to be heavily influenced by that particular Secret Wars.
Yes.
I love that storyline, and everything that leads into that storyline is the I'm gonna forget his name, but the Fantastic Four series that led right into that.
Yeah.
That Fantastic Four series is really good. I'm actually rereading through that right now, and then going into Secret Wars. But that 2015 Secret Wars is an incredible story. But the way that it kind of opens is Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, and Molecule Man are are facing off with the Beyonders, and the Beyonders are like ultimate beings that have existed throughout time. And they're basically the world's or universe is over. Everything's done.
Yeah.
And they ask Doctor Strange to take on the powers of God and create a new world and save anybody they can and do it. And he refuses. He doesn't want that weight.
Yeah.
So Doom takes it. Doom becomes God and uses the abilities of Molecule Man to pull all the worlds together and kind of keeps Molecule Man as a prisoner.
Okay. We'll tap into that.
To tap into all that energy and do all the stuff. I think Kang is going to be Molecule Man in the storyline.
Oh, you think
Doom?
I think
because
Fantastic Four comes out before then too. I think Doom is going to be the big bad of Secret Wars because it's supposed to be based off of that. I think Doom's going to be the big bad, and I think that Kang is going to be the engine that fuels Doom's new universes and worlds.
It'd be a good I don't
too if they were planning.
just because I don't know that much.
Yeah, I think Major's an incredible actor. I know there's some stuff going on, but like he's great as Kang. But man, have you watched Lovecraft Country?
No.
Oh man, watch that show.
I haven't seen it either.
Dude, that show is it's HBO, and that book. It's a really good book. That show is so good.
It's kind of old. I don't want to say old, but it's been out.
It's been out for a few years.
Yeah.
Man, he's good.
Just because I don't know anything, who is Molecule Man?
He's kind of an obscure character. He's not really like.
I was gonna say that's out of all the obscure ones I've heard, I've not heard of that.
He's an obscure character that it's kind of in the name. I mean, I honestly
replicates himself. Like
he does replicate himself quite a lot, but I don't know enough about his backstory, I guess, to explain the character. I know how he's used within that story arc.
Okay.
I don't know if I know enough about him to really lay him out there. But
I have his action figure over there on the shelf.
Why do you have an action figure?
That comic book man is incredible.
So
that Secret Wars, there's I think 3 different Secret Wars that have happened throughout Marvel's history.
Yes, there was original, then there was 2, and then there was the 15 redo.
Yeah, the redo is good. It is a damn good story with like real awesome lore that they put into it, and like how they match up all the worlds that existed when that came out. Like Marvel Zombies is like a part of it.
Okay,
and the Fantastic Four, the way they utilize those characters in it is really like they like build them into the mythology of the new world. That's really cool. But you kind of have to read Hickman. It's Hickman's Fantastic Four arc leads into that, and that gives you a way better understanding of why it's happening. But you can just grab Secret Wars and read it. And if you're a comic book reader, you'll just read the little paragraph in the beginning of it and you're like, sure, I accept all of it because you've told it to me. And then you don't have to know it. You're just like, I'll just read the abridged version and move on. That's fine.
Previously on.
But that Secret Wars is like a very incredible, like it's Jonathan Hickman, and it's so good. It's his finale to his entire Fantastic Four, and it's what that Secret Wars is.
So I got one more question that has to do with what you do. Actors that you've worked with, because we really didn't we touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, is there a specific actor that you look for? Not name wise, but like, do you look for styles? Like, you probably don't have much to do with casting, but
for Undesirables, I casted the entire thing. Me and Michael, we casted the movie for Macabre Mountain. I had one person that I cast in that film, and everybody else was the production we brought on. But I was like, oh, this girl needs to be in this movie. My current, like, I look for actors that kind of vibe with me, who my directing style is a little bit hands off, where other directors might be a lot more hands on. I try to find talent that I know I can talk to and get to understand what that character is, and then let them take the character in the direction they see fit, kind of like, unless they're going way off base with it or whatever, then I'll step in and give them my thoughts on it. But when it comes to actors, I do filmmaking as a collaborative project through and through, and what the actor brings to the table and who they make that character into is is their own character, really. But it has to still be cohesive alongside all the other characters and the story that I'm doing. So if somebody's like going way over the top of something or whatever, I have to dial it back in, then I dial it back in. But when it comes to the people that I've worked with, I do use a lot of the same people. If I really like them a lot and I think they're really talented. Jackie Kelly is one of the best actresses I've ever worked with. She's incredible. I saw her in a movie called Tennessee Gothic that played at the State Theater here a couple of years ago. Random indie movie that came to town because the guy who did the score for that lived in Kokomo. And so they played it here. It's an awesome movie if you haven't seen it. But it's a great movie. And she just stood out in that movie. I was like, man, this girl's so good. So I just sent her a message on Facebook and said, hey, I saw you at Tennessee Gothic. I'm making this movie called The Undesirables. I'd love to send you a script and see if you'd read for this character. And I actually had her in mind for a different character when I originally started talking to her, I think. And when she was going to play a different character in the movie, like I had it picked out. And then we had some opportunities for some other people to be involved in the project. And we started shifting the ideas of who could play who and kind of moving some of the actors around completely of what it was. And Jackie shifted from what would have been kind of one of the villain-ish characters to the main hero of the story. And I shifted her into the lead role really hard. And I couldn't be happier. I'm so happy that we made that decision. And she's the one that I brought on to Macabre Mountain as well, because I was like, if we are going to do this movie, I would love to have at least one person, because there was one character in the script that was like a main character. She's a villain in Macabre Mountain. She's the main villain in Macabre Mountain, basically. But I brought her on because I knew she could handle that performance. I was like, she's going to be perfect for it. And Felissa had just worked with her on Undesirables. It was like Felissa in that movie as well.
Oh, so Felissa, I didn't realize she was in.
Yeah, so Felissa's on Undesirables, and she shared a scene with Jackie. So she had already met her and loved her and was like, yes, let's bring Jackie out. But Jackie is kind of my go-to for some stuff right now, like this new movie that I'm working on. I've already talked to Jackie about it, kind of pitched her a little bit of the movie, and she's definitely down. But she's an incredible actress, and Michael Taylor, incredible actor, writer, the producer. He's involved in it. Darren Lee Cupp, who's the lead in one of the leads in Parallels. He's they're all long hair in that movie. All three of the main guys have long hair in that movie. He's the very handsome guy. He's also in Idol Girl. He's Mateo.
Girl, right?
Oh, okay.
Darren's incredible. We've been, he's now been in 3 of the movies that we've made. He was in Idol Girl. He's in Undesirables. He's kind of a small character in Undesirables, but he's also in a short film that I did. That's a romance movie that he plays the kind of like a Hitch-esque character in this romance short that I made. I did a 48-hour film challenge a couple of years ago. And
podcasts I listened to just did that.
Yeah. I'm really bummed because Kokomo just did it last weekend, was it? And I missed it, and I'm really bummed about it. Tonight was the premiere for the movies they made last weekend. And if I'd have known, we'd have totally done it. I'm not on social media a lot these days, so I just missed it. But I'm really bummed about it. But that year though we did it, you get 48 hours to make a movie. So Friday night, you show up to where they lay out the rules of it all, and basically you draw a genre and a location. And I drew the coffee shop in Kokomo. Can't think of what it was called, but coffee shop in Kokomo, and I drew romance, which was the only genre that I didn't plan for. I was driving up there like, I got an idea for action, I got an idea for horror, I got an idea for this. Like, I'm already like, I'm bouncing, I'm like, I'm set, it's fine. Romance, like, I didn't think romance being a genre. Like, shit, what do I do for this? Trade, and then, uh, I went home. 48 hours to make a movie. I spent probably the first 20 hours of that writing the script. I stayed up all night, bouncing ideas. I called Michael and was like, "Hey, you got any romance scripts floating around?" And so he pitched me an idea for a romance script that he had, and then that kind of just spawned an idea, and I kind of took his and wrote a thing that was different than what he had pitched me, but had some similar like foundation. And then so I wrote that script. I cast Darren in it, one of Michael's friends, Rochelle, and then my cousin Zach. I just put out a call on Facebook and was just like, I need an actor. I need 3 people for this. I've got 2. I need 1 more. And my cousin's like, I've never acted before, but I'll try it out. I was like, all right, let's do it. And he was the perfect age for like the thing, because like the idea that the movie is Darren's character is like trying to set these 2 up. Like,
No,
these
yeah.
but the movie is actually about romance movies. It's very meta in the sense of it's him explaining to his friend that he's never gonna find somebody unless he puts himself out there on the stuff, and what he really needs is a meet cute, which is in romance films there are different types of romance films, like romantic comedies, and romantic comedies generally revolve around a meet cute, which is like 2 characters that accidentally kind of stumble together in like a cute, like, oh, I accidentally touched your hand thing or whatever. And in that, like, there's a girl in a coffee shop. She's sitting there. She's reading Dune, and the movie's about to come out. And so he's telling her, "Hey, I know you're obsessed with this book. Like, there's a girl here reading this book. Why don't you talk to her?" And he's like, "She comes in here all the time. She's never with anybody. She's got to be single. Come over there and talk to her." And then, like, the twist of the whole thing is, like, you find out right in the final moments that that was the first time in the coffee shop, and he was just trying to build his confidence up to like go and talk to her. But we won Best Picture for the 48-hour film for it. And I think I did a great job with that challenge. I don't know that we should have won. If it were up to me, I would have given it to another team. Personally, we watched all the movies. We went to the little premiere, watched everybody's movies. There was one movie, and I don't know anybody's names. Anybody was involved. I wish I did, so I could plug them in this. But they made a movie, and this is why I love filmmaking, just like creative like challenges. They shot a whole thing, and then when they edited it, they were like, the audio sucks because they just like recorded everything in camera. Because like when you record, you got record audio separate, get the mic as close as you can to the people. So they just recorded everything, I think, on their phone, and it just sounded like garbage, like the hands all over the microphone, just like crap. So they dubbed over the whole movie, right? So they then re-recorded all the audio and dubbed it over and turned it into kind of a mockumentary about people that tried to make a movie. And it was hilarious. And it was really, really funny.
That sounds fucking brilliant.
It was super funny because like it was just, everybody who submitted to that challenge were all probably making a movie for their very first time ever making a movie. We came in with a whole damn film crew and made a movie in 48 hours. And I just felt like it wasn't fair. We won because our movie looked like a real movie. But as far as story, which I always put first, I think that they had a very creative solution to their original story that didn't work out, and they flipped it on its head and made it an even better story. And I just thought, the whole room was laughing. Everybody thought that was hilarious. It landed so hard, but yeah, they gave it to us, and Darren got Best Actor, and we won Best Picture, and they're like, it was great. I'm very happy to have won it, and it was a good time. But
So is Darren local?
Indianapolis.
Okay.
He's a dance instructor. He has a dance studio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He has a movie called Emerald Forest that He has, they just shot some concept stuff for Melissa Roses in that. And it is a movie that takes place like 1,000 years before Dorothy enters Oz. And it's like Game of Thrones in Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow, that's a concept.
Yeah.
I like that concept.
Is it a horror type movie or?
I probably it stars a ton of people from and I hope I get this right. But it stars a ton of people, like a handful of the actors from Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And Felissa Rose. So there's a lot of horror talent involved in it. I have read a good chunk of the script and have been. He's talked to me a lot about working on the project in various roles, and I haven't had a lot of time to dedicate to it. But now moving forward on it, I think I'm going to end up working on it in some fashion. But it is there's definitely elements where I could see him pushing some horror direction, but he's not directing it. I'm not sure who the director is of it. I don't know enough about him. I'm not on social media a lot, but I know he's been pushing it like crazy lately. And the stuff that they shot for it looks really good. My friend Roman worked on it, and
Cool.
some of the stuff that they shot on it was great. They got a sound stage and like some really incredible lighting. And they had like a rain machine on a car, and they're shooting like dialogue in a car with like all these lights going by and like rain falling on. It was super cool. He's landed himself a really good budget for it, and it's going to be something.
So it's
my friend Michael wrote it too.
Okay,
so
he's the one making it then.
Yeah, it's Darren's producing it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's producing it. He's the lead actor in it, and it's like my understanding is it's kind of him having a Dorothy experience where he gets pulled into Oz, but it's 1,000 years beforehand.
Wow, that's a concept.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it's got some really cool stuff in it. Like he just shot concept stuff for that. We just shot concept stuff for Becca's new movie we're shooting next year. Rebecca has a film called Thirsty Thursday. I'm not exactly allowed to talk about it necessarily about what it's about, but it's like it's 4 girls getting together for their high school reunion, and some horror stuff happens. I can't really talk about it yet.
Right.
But we just shot a bunch of concept stuff for that, so we'll expect to see that in the nearest future too. You'll see some concept stuff that we shot for that, so it should be
very cool.
We did a lot of really fun stuff for that.
I'll definitely be excited for that.
Yeah, so that's the next big project on the horizon is Rebecca's movie. I've got Parallels came out this year. Kill Dolly Kill came out this year. I've got Macabre Mountain coming out. Undesirables will come out in the spring, and then we'll be shooting Thirsty Thursday next summer. We'll be shooting Placid Park next summer. That's Roman's movie. And then potentially shooting Emerald Forest next year too. So
okay. So this might be a little bit of a hard question to ask, but so you brought up like Parallels came out this year.
Mhm.
Where can we watch a lot of these movies that you've worked on, been a part of, know people that have, you know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of the movies, because like when we were trying to, I only got to see Idol Girl because I had a hard time finding a lot of these movies.
Parallels isn't available right now in distribution yet. It came out in the spring. We had our premiere for it at Cincinnati Horror Hound, and then it just played PopCon. Right now, it's just festival circuit, so it's only playing at festivals, getting picked up on. Right now, it's just those 2 that it's played at. I think we got picked up on another one, but it is. I'm not sure which one it is, but I do think we were picked up on another film festival.
You can let me know by the time I edit this. I'll put it in the description.
But some of our shorts are available online, like the romance one's available on like I think it's just on the Rad Entertainment Facebook page, or it's on Darren's YouTube channel. Actually, I know it's on that. June's on our Rad Entertainment page. Island Girls, Amazon Prime. And I think that's all that you can really find. You can get DVDs and stuff if you go to like the horror convention. Some of the stuff that we've made is just like sold like self-distributed stuff.
Okay.
A lot of it's that.
Now, I will say, and I don't know how bad this is, but I know some people found them on like Vimeo and stuff like that. How do you feel about that? I know, I don't know how, like, I know that I got linked a couple of the full length movies on Vimeo. I know that's
Vimeo or on
like the link was to Vimeo.
for which one?
Specifically Slaughterhouse Horrors
Okay.
2.5.
Yeah, so those ones are distributed through
I was just saying, I didn't want to be too much about piracy.
uh the piracy side of things is weird on the indie side, because on the indie, like, I don't give a shit if you want to watch whatever Marvel movie, pirate whatever movie. Like, I don't care. Do your thing. I generally speaking,
I just say because I feel bad because I would like to give money to
Right.
these indie creators.
right. I'm just saying, like, when it comes to like big major studio stuff, I don't care. Do whatever you do. And I used to torrent stuff all the time, but it became easier just to pay for it.
Yeah, honestly,
that's
really
for fucking
did.
That's how they battled piracy. Is like, well, it's just easier just to stream things now. Like, just put it on a platform. You'll probably just either get a free trial to watch it, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like almost easier to do it that way. But by all means, on the piracy thing, I don't care. But when it comes to the indie stuff, I do know that, like, Don't Fuck in the Woods, Concept Media's movie, that movie, he has a way to track piracy on it. And that movie has been pirated over 2 million times. And if everybody would have paid $1, he'd be a millionaire.
But to me, also, that just shows though that if it's been pirated 2 million times, even though I guess that's not a
He
legal
used those
metric to
numbers.
use.
He used those numbers to sell Don't Fuck in the Woods too.
All right, that's what I was about to say. I was like, I don't know if that's really legal metrics to
Yeah.
use, but you can use those metrics.
No, for his distribution for Don't Fuck in the Woods too, he was like, look, this movie this is how many views we had, basically, like, it's been pirated this many times. Like, this movie has a fan basis. There are people that are excited about the sequel coming out. Like, I know for a fact he used his piracy numbers to up his percentages on his distribution sale.
That's
Like,
cool.
I like
but
seeing
he's-
where
but he-
piracy helps.
Yes,
also.
but he also is also still tracking the piracy numbers on Don't Fuck the Woods too, and he's pirated all the time. That is a movie that is
He should have went Don't Fuck in the Woods, like
Never Fuck in the Woods.
Yeah, like-
Stop Fucking in the
like-
Woods.
Fuck in the Woods Strikes Back, like Return of Fuck in the Woods.
All right, Star Wars, fuck.
Like, he could have done like Fuck in the Woods Endgame.
But the thing is,
Jesus
the
Christ.
thing that's in the Woods is it's a movie that people told him he was like really stupid for calling it that, because you're like, you're never gonna get distribution. I'm calling it like Don't Fuck in the Woods. You can buy that movie at Barnes and Noble. Like, it is there. Like, it is on the case. Like, the word "fuck" is blocked out. Like, it's got a censor thing over it. But people, like, it is.
You know what it says.
Yeah, but that is like the most clever title you could come up with for a horror movie. Like, every movie is kids fucking in the woods. Like, that's like what the that's like somebody can't.
It's one of a horror movie. Don't fuck in the woods.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they could have totally gotten away with calling Nightmare on Elm Street "Don't Fall Asleep."
Right. I mean, yeah. It's like like Friday the 13th. Don't fuck in the woods.
Don't fuck in the woods. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Don't fuck in the house.
Yeah, don't answer the phone.
Yeah, don't answer the phone. They're in Don't Fuck in the Woods 2. They won an award from the Mr. Skin website. If you're familiar with Mr. Skin,
Yeah.
They
All right, how am I the young kid that doesn't know a website?
because you grew up with pornography already around. When we were growing up, Mr. Skin was where you could look up and see, like, celebrity.
Okay. So you're talking dial-up times.
It's celebrity porn. It's celebrity nude scenes in movies.
Yeah.
Mr. Skin is like a collection of all of those things. You
Okay.
see Knocked Up.
Also, I said dial-up times. I did grow up with dial-up. Let me not date myself that fucking young.
Mr. Skin gave Don't Fuck in the Woods 2 best slug plug of the year.
Located at 430 East Broadway in beautiful downtown Logansport, on the bonus level, the second floor of Bonus Pines, is Savini Comics. Savini Comics has all your toys, gaming, and comic needs. We have Dungeons and Dragons. We have Magic the Gathering. We have Pokemon. We have Disney Lorcana. We have Marvel and DC comic books. We have Marvel and DC figures. We have Star Wars. We have wrestling. Come join us at Savini Comics for all your gaming, toys, and comic book needs.
There's a creature that worms its way into a place on a woman that wasn't very savory, and they got an award for it because it's a very graphic special effects, and they won an award for that. It I think it says it on the case now, like best select plug, Mr. Skin Ted. Jesus. Oh my god,
that prop.
it's a.
How would you like to be that one that does the special effects for that?
That special effects guy. Yeah.
At least it wasn't practical effects.
I wonder if it's the guy that did the slugs for Harry Potter.
It's weird. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were discussing media, and one of the guys said, I went out this weekend and bought a bunch of 4K movies. And the other two guys started laughing at him, and they were like, why'd you buy 4K movies? And he's like, because I have a 4K TV. And he's like, but do you own the Blu-ray and the DVD? Like, why were you buying DVD? Like, why? And he goes, well, it's not the same thing. And he goes, what do you mean it's not the same thing? He goes, it's 4K. It's like, I bought a 4K movie because I have a 4K TV. Like, 4K is not the same as Blu-ray. And he's like, what do you mean it's not? He goes, well, DVD is not the same as Blu-ray, right? He goes, yeah. And he goes, well, the 4K is not the same. So they got this whole argument. And then he's like, and then the other guy that was arguing against not buying media, but buying discs was like, I'm so like in a place where like if my DVDs are in a different room, I will just look it up on iTunes and buy it for $3.99 rather than get up and dig for a DVD and then put it in a player. I'll just buy the movie.
If I own a movie on DVD, I will first search to see if it's streaming on anything. Well, that's not shit. Okay, if I have a DVD and I'll watch it.
I don't own basically anything physical, which sucks for me now living in the country because I got bit in the fucking ass.
Yeah.
With it.
Yeah.
Oh, let me put it this way: I don't even get a megabyte down.
Yeah.
My ping's 9,000. That's not exaggerating.
There's like a really strong argument for physical media, especially what I was talking about earlier about like movies no longer making any kind of sale. You know, they can't count on any kind of physical media sales anymore. When it comes to the business side of it, there's definitely like physical media. They phased it. The industry phased it out themselves, but now hurt from it. But there are certain movies that you can't find that never got the 4K treatment, that never got DVD treatment. Like there are movies like that you can't find anymore. Most recently, I've been trying to watch Servant Ninjas, and I just cannot find it anymore.
Fucking Servant Ninjas.
Dogma, I don't know.
Dude, Dogma's stuck in a rights issue. That's
They got oil.
Dogma's stuck in a rights issue?
Yeah, you can't
find
get it
it
over.
and then died.
Am I the only one that doesn't know what the fuck Dogma is?
You
It's
know,
a Kevin Smith movie.
yeah, Kevin Smith.
It's Kevin Smith's best movie.
All right, give me a second to Google. 'Cause
Yeah.
every time you guys have brought up Kevin Smith, I
Yeah,
don't even know if I know who you're talking about.
Although Clerks 2 is right up there.
Also, you guys keep bringing up
Clerks 3 's great.
Clerks.
I haven't seen Clerks
I mean,
3.
Mallrats.
Does it?
Mallrats is smart. It's so good.
Does it? I'm gonna say, can you stream it anywhere?
Clerks 3?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. The only reason I know Clerks is from the clip of What You Call a Broken Beer Bottle. And that's because a podcast I know referenced it.
Oh, yeah,
That whole scene.
yeah.
I'm a huge like Clerks 3 is
But
about
now I know who Kevin Smith
Is it?
Sorry.
which is why it's so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen Clerks 3 because I haven't been able to find it. It like didn't come out in the theaters here.
Yeah, you had to go to Indianapolis or Chicago to see it.
Yeah, and it has
They were touring it. If you went to see it, they were there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you would have seen it, Kevin Smith would have watched it with you.
I gave Kevin Smith a hug. I have a picture,
Did you?
I have a picture of him. Him and Jason Mewes.
I got a picture with Jason Mewes. I've never met Kevin Smith, but I have met Jason.
I feel like I'd like to meet Jason Mewes first. I'd rather pick him up if I had to get one of the pair, even though I like Kevin Smith's shit more. I just feel like I could interact with Jason Mewes better.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith was super nice. I mean, we just did a photo op thing at a convention.
Yeah.
So it was like 30 seconds or whatever. But like he gave us both a hug, and Rebecca thanked him for being there and for like spending his energy with all these people all day and how exhausting that must be. And he like kind of teared up for a minute. He was like, "Thank you for saying that." And then immediately after, I watched a podcast with him on his Batman on Batman podcast.
I watch it every now and then.
I watched it immediately his next episode, and he was talking about San Diego Comic-Con was coming up in that time frame. This was last year. San Diego Comic-Con was coming up, and his co-host on there, Mark Bernardin, was saying that he was like, man, I'm totally going to get COVID when we go. And then Kevin Smith was like, "Oh, are you still worried about that? I just hugged everybody at the Chicago Fan Expo." He's like, and I thought, I'm getting COVID today. It's like worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
Worth it.
Yeah, we met Jason, my wife and I met Jason Mewes in Indianapolis. She bought tickets. We were front row for his stand up. And then we had a meet and greet afterwards. But I haven't met Kevin Smith. So I would love to do a Kevin Smith Q&A. That would be fantastic. And this is totally off topic, but speaking of movies and Q&As, Carrie
Peyton?
Elves
Oh yeah, yeah.
is doing a watch of The Princess Bride in Wabash.
Oh really?
Yeah.
When does that happen?
Yeah.
I'm not actually a huge Princess Bride fan.
Oh, okay.
But okay, totally.
I would go just because he's there.
Yeah, he's doing. I don't know when it is. I think it's February, maybe.
Hey,
But-
you should go bring a bottle of tequila, and anytime somebody says the fucking Indigo Montoya line, we just take a shot.
Hopefully it's on a weekend, but I'll go just because it'll be the first time I'll ever have watched that movie.
Oh yeah. So it's February 10th, Saturday, 7:30 to 10:30. Princess
Whoa.
Bride.
As long
An
as
inconceivable evening.
Can we get him to watch Robin Hood Men in Tights and Strings?
Yeah, I'd almost rather watch that one than. I love the Princess Bride. It's one of my favorites.
as long as our lovely workplace doesn't make me work that Saturday, I'll try to be there.
Yeah, this is a join him for a behind the scenes look at life on and off the set. The Princess Bride, after the screening of the iconic film, he'll engage in a moderated discussion revealing never before shared secrets, tales of inconceivable antics. So yeah. I was like, that might be really interesting. And then my next thought was, I wonder if he'd do something like that at like the State or Merrimax.
Yeah.
Like,
Probably, man. I mean, a lot of those people are like, start looking at conventions and see who goes. Like, see who the regular guests are, because he's a regular guest at all those conventions.
Yeah.
But like, look up the horror hounds and Comic Cons and stuff in the area, and see what guests come to this area, and try to piggyback off one of those. Like, if they're already going to be at Indianapolis Comic Con, try and piggyback out of the day.
Here's the thing, because I tried to do that, and I won't say his name, but I tried to do that for a convention that's up north, and they sign agreements that they won't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't. If they can't do it the same way,
They can't do it the same weekend.
not smart.
Well,
enough, I guess.
Well, he also in the same sentence said, like, or reference next, like, do it near that next weekend.
Well, if you,
Well, a lot of them, like, they're flying in for the
I guess
weekend.
that's true.
Yeah, so like they can't. And I asked about a Friday because they were doing a convention on a Saturday and a Sunday, and they said we can't do the Friday because we're doing the Saturday and Sunday. We're not allowed. So I was like, all right, that's fine. So I thought about that idea, but when they had that, and then I've heard through asking some other people that that's normal.
Mhm.
Like they're not allowed to go.
it makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm not. Yeah, it makes total sense. So it is what it is. But
Yeah, but if you look at those people who do those conventions, it gives you an idea of who you could probably get over here, though.
right.
As far as like the the level of celebrity or whatever.
We gotta get Biff. We gotta get Biff. He's gonna be in Elkhart. Next spring.
He is.
Or Griff, whoever you prefer.
Yeah.
I had a campaign bit for a long time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I will have seen at least one of those movies.
Yeah,
by
we
then.
need to we need to watch the movies. We need to
Hey.
go through your list of movies that you haven't seen and watch them all.
You need to
Back
back
to
to
the
the top.
anniversary edition.
So, hey, do you want to just start? Do I need to just start a notepad now?
Yeah. We need to start with like Back to the
Yeah.
Future and Goonies.
Do you know that
I gotta read.
I'm just estimating off the top of my head what I've heard are like staple movies that everyone should watch that I have not watched. And going off the amount of free time everybody has, it would easily take us probably 3 years to get through. I'm not exaggerating that. I've seen not so little movies, but
Yeah.
so little like what people call cultural movies or like big movies or whatever. Forrest Gump, Goonies, Back to the Future, fucking
You watch Fatal Attraction?
don't know what that is.
It's a world shaper.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll give you a different perspective, I'll tell you.
Shit. Off the top of my head, and I reference it all the time. You can ask Kyla and Tyler because they bitch about it. I reference Robin Williams' Weapons of Mass Destruction and whatever the other one that you had. Those two stand-ups.
No.
Me and Dakota watch those night after night, every single night. I think for almost a year straight.
Yeah.
Like I almost have them memorized in my fucking head. That's how little of like actual movies and more
Yeah.
of just bullshit I watched.
Yeah.
My employee referenced the other day was like, "What's in the box?" I was like, "Do you know what's in the box?" he was like, "What?" I was like, "Do you know what's in the box?" He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "The movie that's from 7. Do you know what's in the box?"
I have seen 7. I made sure, like,
I had no idea what was in the box. I was like, "You should watch that movie and then tell me."
And then-
yeah. Then tell me about the head that's in the box.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you so okay. Yeah, I mean you told us everything I think you could about your new projects, and
Yeah, we got stuff coming out. I don't.
we're gonna look forward to
Not
it. That's
to-
for sure.
Prolong anything. How's the business doing? I know you talked about it a little bit, but
Your turn?
yeah.
Or the movie making.
Well, sorry, my bad. Yeah, the computer
LoganTech.
store,
Logan.
LoganTech.
LoganTech's doing really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
plug that. I know we talked about it here and there.
Yeah. No, it's doing really good. Last week was crazy, man. We were super busy. But yeah, it's doing good. We're in the process of getting a podcast studio together in the back of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we hope we might be able
I
to
was gonna say, I know
move
we've all
this
talked
into
about that.
at some point. That would be cool.
Hopefully, help increase production value.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that'd be
Great.
fantastic. And any extra podcasts that you need us to help out with, we can do that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, okay. I think we're ready to wrap up. I think it's late. That's for sure.
It's
A
definitely
long
So
one
yeah,
today.
so yeah,
Tonight,
yeah.
tomorrow.
So this has been a really long episode that'll probably be cut into two parts if I had to guess, but I guess it doesn't have to be. You could listen to it in two parts, but this has been this has been Pints and Pages with Tony Walters. I appreciate you coming
Yeah, man.
and
Thanks for
talking
having
with
me.
us and letting us talk to you and about movies and different things like that. So
Anytime. I love talking about it.
yeah. So I'm Nick,
I'm Brad.
I'm Levi.
and we'll see you next time.